As we remember what we're supposed to say.
I didn't even know.
Hold on, I'm just trying to get the volume going, okay? Guys, how's that? Can we hear it? How about now?
Let me go. Let me go this way. I can already hear mine.
Can you guys hear us?
Yes.
Hi.
Hi.
Guys, how's that?
Excellent.
Delayed one.
I want to shit on YouTube here. So I find out everything like 30 seconds after you guys start.
Welcome to our meeting back in Princeton. It's been a long time. I think it was January, so 3 months as we went through the relocation and closure processes in Merritt, and I decided to move one of the meetings there as we're making that decision. So it's good to be back here. And nice to see an audience here again. And Cass, I want you to bring something up from you too. In our acknowledgements today, recognize the Inco-Patmansville territory as well as our Métis community. Also wanted to mention this past week, we had the previous week missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls. And sometimes that's seen as a bit of an abstract. And so I wanted to introduce you to two young ladies from our district. One is Monica Jack. She was 12 years old when she was murdered. Last seen by her family May 6, 1978. So that's probably about the time Everett was at Nicollet as an elementary school student as well. She was riding home on her bike from Merritt, and then it would be another 17 years before her remains were found. So when we think about murdered and missing women, it has a real effect in the communities. And it was another 40 years before her killer was charged and brought to justice. So that was only 8 years ago. And so that's Monica. We also have some movies up on our district website where people want to learn more about their stories, because it's important that we remember them. Cherish Nicole Billy Oppenheim is the other young lady there. She was 16, was quite active in basketball and rugby, and actually wanted to become a PE teacher back in our district. She was murdered October 13th, 2001. She was in grade 11. At that time, my daughter was 15 in grade 10 in that same school. And her killer was out on bail on several charges, including sexually assaulting teenage girls with a weapon. That was in March of 2001. She was murdered in October of 2001. So this October, that's going to be the 25th anniversary. And her killer was given a life sentence in 2003, and then was transferred to a minimum security prison down in the Lower Mainland, which she promptly walked away from, and then was caught sometime later. And the families in Merritt weren't advised that he had gotten away. And, Mission, that was only 2 hours from our community. She was also a generous and kind person. And so when we think about it, second of 4 daughters, when we think about what does missing and murdered Indigenous women mean, this is what it means to us in our district. I left you some pouches there at the table. That's just a reminder for us to never forget, because it's had an impact on our district and continues to have an impact. And with that, I also wanted to turn things over to Trustee Ward on the Moose Side campaign, because that also talks about men and boys standing up against violence against women and children.
Tomorrow, May the 14th, the nation will be looking at several different events. One in particular is a day fast, a full day fasting, just in honor and in memory of the missing, murdered, and Indigenous women, the women and children in homes lost to violence. And it is also in solidarity to welcome men into the conversation with a trauma-informed approach. And also there's marches all over. When this first started, it was a grassroots movement, quite literally. First Nation young lady and her dad. They went, they harvested on the Highway of Tears. They did, in fact, get a moose on that particular day, but they were taken by all the stories lost on the Highway of Tears, and they needed to build a better way. And so with that moose that they harvested, they started cutting out little squares. And their first year, they handmade their index cards, and they thought, well, we'll just do that in our own community. And since then, we are 4 million little squares have been shared across our nation, and we are looking at being one of the global leaders for raising awareness around domestic violence and really being a trauma-informed nation. So that's for everyone here. The little barcode, there's a really a lovely set of resources you can share with your classes. It's really huge within the post-secondary movement. So educators have access to all kinds of resources, and so businesses, community agencies, families, there's really just to tie back to Chair Swan's recognition and connection to missing Indigenous women and girls, just really need to raise awareness and maybe think about what we can do to kind of stop it. All right, thanks everybody. Thank you.
Yeah, it merits some of it that been to the site where she was killed, and there was a fawn that was actually sitting over the grave when she was found. And the image of that fawn is now on a blanket that was presented by Indigenous groups in BC to the legislature. So there's a connection there back to our battle and the symbolism of that fawn over the fawn. So thank you for that. We get approval of the agenda.
So
Moved by trustee Ward, seconded by Kent Laidlaw. Any objections? Seeing none. You have the minutes of the meeting held April 8th. Motion, we don't have to hold the minutes for the next meeting. So we'll go to the presentation from Collifield, who's online. So bonsoir. Oh, hang on, just
I think I've got our sound on now. I'm just going to attempt to share my screen because then the kids can show you their PowerPoint that they made. More. If there's any tech savvy people, I would appreciate where the button is. It seems to be a new, pardon me? A new view. Yeah, it's new. I guess I'm more confident on Teams.
so in the bottom middle, when you float your cursor down, you'll be able to see something called share.
Okay. Yes, mine's just in French. No worries. Okay. Can you see mine now?
Not yet. No. You might have to click on the what you want to share.
Oh, okay.
say I have to click on the
okay,
file
hold
that you want to share.
I'll do that. So partager.
And I am passing the secret envelope you left.
Oh, there we go. There we go. Okay, guys, we're gonna start at the beginning. Okay. My students will do the speaking. Okay, so we wanted to share a little bit about the trip that you guys approved for the students because they had an incredible opportunity to go and speak French in French Canada here, and I will let the boys take it away, boys.
So if you're sharing a presentation, we're not seeing it presently.
Oh, drat. Okay, we'll figure that out. How is it not sharing the
You click
presentation?
on share. And
Yes.
then you click on the presentation you wish to share. So you have to click on the share button.
Yeah.
And then it
So
should
here
open
it
up.
says deactivated. Here it says. Okay. I think the host has to allow it for me. It says the host has deactivated the share screen by this participant.
I wonder if I'd make her host so she can't get out of it again. It might. Great.
Hold our meeting for on YouTube. Can she send you the presentation?
email it to you?
Yeah.
Okay. I can email it to you. Yeah. To Cassie?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes. Okay, I will share it to you. That would
We learned our lesson the hard way when we made someone else the host. It should do
No
our
worries.
meeting.
I don't know what that means anyhow, so I'll just pass this to you. Yeah. So Cassie, it says that it shared it to you. Yeah. It should come through when, yeah, there we go. Okay.
I want to turn my screen.
Everybody turn away.
Everybody's gonna look at my email.
We won't need your confidential emails.
Yeah.
Except for the third one.
There it is.
Yeah.
It helps my distance vision isn't great, so it's all. Well done, Cass.
Thanks.
And just like Cass, you know when to advance your slides.
Okay, I can't see it,
Like
so.
slideshow.
Sure, okay, so there's that intro page and then here, oh, there we go. That will help. Yeah. Oh, there we go. Okay, yeah, thank you.
Great work, Cass, no pressure. Oh my gosh.
I think that's you guys at the planetarium, hey? And then you could say, that's the biodome, so you could say, next slide, please.
Next slide, please. This is us at the Notre Dame Basilica.
Yeah, that's okay, yeah.
Yeah.
In Montreal.
In Montreal.
Yeah. Next slide, please.
Next slide.
Next slide, please. This is us at the Parliament building in Quebec City. Next slide,
Next slide,
please.
please.
Next slide, please. This is us at the Biodome. Next slide, please.
This is us at the graffiti workshop
Next slide,
in
please.
Montreal.
Yeah.
Next slide, please.
This is us at located at Montreal. Next slide, please.
Right before the games.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
This is us at the
Montmorency.
Montmorency waterfall in Quebec. Next slide, please.
That's really cool.
Next slide, please.
This is us at the Chateau Frontenac. So it's not actually a castle, it's just a hotel.
Made by rich people.
Yeah.
And you guys sit on the chairs.
I know. Yeah.
Yeah.
Next slide, please.
This is us at the rock climbing. Everyone had a lot of fun.
Yeah, it was
Next slide,
really
please.
fun.
Next slide, please.
This is us at the Sugar Shack in Quebec City.
We had a traditional meal.
Yeah, we had a traditional meal.
Yeah.
Next slide, please.
This is us at the Quebec Aquarium. Wait, in Quebec?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
in Quebec, right before we got on the plane.
Yeah.
Slide, please.
Yeah.
Next slide, please.
Mortello.
This is us at the Mortello Tower. So next slide, please.
So all of you.
Thank you so much for
our
2026 Quebec.
We had so much fun while learning a lot about Quebec and practicing our French.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And we gave Cassie a card the other day where the kids wrote their thank yous to you. And yeah, we just really appreciate the amazing opportunity. I know it's a huge highlight of these kids' elementary program at Collettville. And thank you so much.
I have some questions from trustees.
Was there a favorite spot?
Bell Center.
I'm the hockey player, yeah.
Sugar Shack,
Sugar Shack?
yeah.
That's totally wrong.
The Sugar Shack was really yummy.
You say yours again?
Easily the rock climbing.
Rock
No
climbing was
competition.
good, yeah.
Definitely Old Quebec.
Yeah. And there's this part in Old Quebec, one of the photos of the kids where it's just like lit up really beautiful at night, and there's even shopping in the evening. I mean, we were there a little bit later in the evening, but it's really pretty. Yeah. And it just feels like you're almost in Europe or something. Hey, it's really neat. Yeah.
What was
Trustee Kent Laidlaw.
your traditional meal that you had at the Sugar Shack?
It was like a family style where they would like bring out food and you would take what you wanted and just pass it around the table and more would come. And then when you're kind of done with all the food that's coming around, and when it's empty, the waiters like come pick it up and like they bring out like 3 courses.
And the catch is, you can put syrup on anything. Literally, there were sausages, there was soup, there was so much stuff, and they were like anything. Syrup on anything.
Yeah, I put syrup in my water.
I put syrup on my sausages. It was actually really
Awesome.
I have a question.
So what else you guys like? There were like beans. Oh yeah.
Question. Did you learn any new French words in Quebec City? Do they speak different?
You get Asito coming from.
I think I did. I can't remember very much of them.
Oh yeah, I learned the word for ladder.
What is it?
Échelle.
I thought it was this. Oh wait, Escalier is stairs.
Yeah, yeah.
Good job, guys.
So I take it you're all cheering for the Abs for the Stanley Cup?
Yeah.
Yeah. You kind of have to, right?
It's the last Canadian team.
Yeah.
Like,
Also, we've been there, so we kind of have to now.
Yeah.
Well, we're glad we could support your trip there.
Pardon me?
We're happy that we could support your trip to Montreal and Quebec City.
Oh, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Hey guys.
We'll
Bonsoir.
see you another time. Thank you so much. Yeah.
Bonsoir.
Bonsoir.
And I believe we're doing a joint student trustee Princeton Secondary School travel club in-person report, which would be over here. Oh, could be.
You're up with the PSS. Yes. Okay, so we went to Portugal and Spain and we were there for 12 days and we experienced some new cultures, places, and perspectives. Next slide. Okay, in Portugal, we went to Lisbon, Evora, Sintra, and Algarve. And then in Spain, we went to Seville, Granada, Valencia, and Barcelona. And then we did this excursion in Gibraltar. And it's basically, it's in the UK.
Lisbon is the capital city of Portugal and is known for its stills, trams, and historic architecture. Warren wasn't expecting how much walking was involved, especially with steep streets and cobblestone roads. They visited the Tower of Pisa and the Henry the Navigator's Tomb. Sintra was a very unique place. It felt almost like a fairy tale town. It's known for its castles, palaces, and sceneries. We toured through the Sintra National Palace, which was the most memorable landmark that she saw there. And then Aurora and showed 2 very different sides of Portugal. Aurora was historic and traditional with Roman influence, while Algarve was known for its beaches, cliffs, and coastal scenery.
Okay, and then in Seville, it was a very traditional Spanish atmosphere, and it's known for its architecture, culture. And then one of the most famous places we went to was Plaza de España, which was I put the picture in there. But that big building in the three pictures is apparent, like our tour guide told us that one of the Star Wars movies was filmed there. We thought it was pretty cool. And it was really hot that day. And then in Granada, it's famous for its Alhambra, which is a historic place with a strong Moorish influence. And the city is combined history, architecture, and mountain views, and making it one of the most unique places we visited. And then in Valencia is combined with modern architecture with historic areas. We visited Plaza de la Virgin, which is one of the oldest, most iconic public squares in the heart of Valencia, and it's built over a Roman Forum. And Valencia is the birthplace of Pala, which is that dish up there. It's a rice dish cooked in a wide pan over an open flame, and it can have like vegetables, seafood, or like meat. And in Barcelona, we went to Park Güell. It has really unique architecture, which are like those three things, the top left and then the bottom two was at that park. And then saw the Sagrada Familia, which is a church that's been in like construction for almost 140 years. We didn't get to see it finished yet, but it was still really cool to see. And then we went to Gibraltar, which is a British territory, and it's at the southern tip of Spain. And at the top of the rock, you can like see Africa over the water. And then there's like wild monkeys there. And then we went into like a cave that had a bunch of like planes from like battles. And then cultural experiences, one of the biggest differences I noticed in Canada was the lifestyle. People tend to spend more time outdoors, and walking was their main form of transportation, which was a big difference than here. And meals were much later, so it was like harder to adjust to that, especially coming home. Yeah. And food style, you mainly saw like tapa culture. Or do you want to do something?
Food was an important part of the culture for both Portugal and Spain. Meals felt more social, especially with tapas, where food is shared between people. And she also noticed how food felt fresher and less processed.
And some challenges. There was obviously language barriers between the two countries, and then navigation during like free time was a little harder because we were on our own, being able to do. And there was moments where we had to like step outside our comfort zones, adapting to the environment. And then also leaving our tour guide. Our tour guide was awesome. She's the one in the middle with the pink scarf. Picked a very amazing tour guide for us. What I learned, I gained independence from it, traveling without my parents, and then more confidence too, traveling on it, like not by myself, but like without my parents, and also cultural awareness, and then more adaptability to other lifestyles. And it helped me understand that different countries have very different ways of life. My favorite memory was seeing the monkeys in the world. They're really funny. One time, or like when we were there, one of the kids on the trip had a bag of gummies in his backpack pocket, and the monkey took it and started. That was very funny. And I also really enjoyed seeing Cape St. Vincent. I don't know why Vincent is there twice. But it was this really cool cliff with a lighthouse, and it kind of like set in more that we weren't in Canada anymore. When we were in like Lisbon and stuff, it kind of still felt like we were in Vancouver, like somewhere like that. But once we got there, it really like sank that we were in Europe. And I think traveling changes perspectives, it leads you to new experiences. And it helps you grow personally. And it made me more open-minded. And then overall, I think it changed how I see the world. And that's it.
We can pick up any Spanish or Portuguese phrases that you remember, or see some commonalities, words that we take for granted, that are actually Spanish or Portuguese in origin.
Not really. I was like, what stuck with me was sorry. Because people aren't really like, it kind of felt like people weren't as socially aware as aware. Like we'd be walking down the kind across the street. It's like still a red light and like cars can go past, but like people just walk or like and like be in your way. And so yeah, things I like sorry. What was your favorite food there? I really liked the interview telling about the one that nobody went, the one dinner that nobody liked. It was like it was codfish and it was like the what's it called? The sauce was like mushroom and potato and it was so good. But everybody did not like it. That was my favorite.
Now Avery she kept sending me pictures of like giant prawns.
Yeah.
And I was so jealous. She had so much seafood.
Are you kind of got the travel bug now? You're like, you're interested in traveling?
Yes. I like looking at like when I was making this application, I was looking at all the pictures like, oh, I really miss it there.
Can you do an EF again? Like with a
Yeah,
tour
I
guide?
think so.
Mm-hmm. Did she have the little flag and you had to get a look at that?
That was really cool.
Thank you for sharing. I happen to be in Barcelona in December of 2027. Aside from maybe seeing that church completed, what other things do you recommend?
I really liked I really like that part. I was trying to remember this, but I remember that part was like I didn't know we were going there. And then we stopped at this one place and walked there and like it was like she was telling our tour guide was telling us about like this millionaire guy that was gonna build like so many houses on the park like a long time ago. And then he only built like 4. And we got to see all like the houses, and one of the houses is now like elementary school. And the architecture guys made like a bench on the top of this one, like there's like the top, and it's like you could walk on like the top and like overview Barcelona. And the benches was like made to like so you can like sit in it normally, not like straight up. I thought, and it had a bunch of like really cool pictures on it, which I thought was really cool. And then we like walk down and then you see all the pillars that are holding it up. And one of some fashion show was held there too, which I thought was really cool.
Yes, happy to be. Well, thank you again. Yeah. I'm sure it'll be a request coming future for another trip. I'm sensing it.
I'll send your mom a video. You did a great job.
Okay, this will move us to our Indigenous education portal. And you're welcome to stay, but if there's something else you need to be at tonight.
No.
Okay. Excellent.
She wants to be a trustee when she grows up.
Okay.
Okay, so Angela, our Director of Indigenous Education, our District Principal of Indigenous Education, Lisa Nelson-Smith, and our language teachers are going to present on some of the work that we've been doing over the past year and the role that Lisa's had in supporting our Indigenous language program.
Thanks, Courtney. Hentla, Hinchquist, Angela McIver, Yadishwiktimin. It's good to see you all this evening. Trustees, I wanted to take tonight to recognize the important work happening across Nicholas Similkameen in our Intlakatmachine and our Insilkshin language programs. These classes are a reflection of our commitment to honoring the languages, cultures, and identities of the Intlakatmak and Syilx people whose territory that we live on. I also wanted to mention that this work is living and breathing and highlights the work that we need to do in our local education agreement. And it really highlights that work in a meaningful way. I brought Joanne Mansfield and Lisa Nelson Smith with me. Joanne Mansfield is the Intlakatmachine teacher for MSS, Central, and Diamondville. She's got quite the hefty workload. And Lisa Nelson Smith has been our coaching teacher, and she's been supporting our language teachers in our district in many ways. Amy Smith, formerly Amy Joe, is our Intlakatmachine teacher at Nicola Camford Elementary. She teaches the Intlakatmachine there from grades kindergarten all the way up to grade 7. She couldn't be here with us this evening, but I've got some notes to share. Nechpekto Joe is our Insilkshin teacher who's not with us this evening. She teaches Insilkshin at MSS and Central. Joella Bolan is also our Intlakatmak teacher at MSS. She teaches grades 10, 11, and 12. And that's the great program that started before I got here where it's the dual credit. So those students are getting credit for NVIT as well as getting their grades for MSS. And am I missing anybody?
No.
Those are all of our teachers. So I wanted to give them an opportunity to share some of the great work that they're doing in their classrooms, but I also wanted to bring attention to some of the challenges that these teachers are facing. Often we have elders or we have knowledge keepers or language learners teaching in these roles, and the teachers are on letters of permission. So along with these roles comes those extra responsibilities of doing things like the planning. These teachers are developing their own curriculum along the way, classroom management, and the fun part of teaching is reporting, working with My Ed and doing report cards for all of their students that they're teaching. And these people aren't trained as teachers, and even those of us who are trained as teachers, those jobs are very difficult jobs. So this is where we were really fortunate this year to have Lisa Nelson Smith come in, who is she is a trained and seasoned teacher. I'm not going to say she's an old teacher like me, but we've been teaching for 25 to 30. I know.
Yeah, pushing 30 now.
Pushing 30 years. So a well-seasoned teacher in supporting our language teachers in all of those elements that I just spoke to. So I think maybe I'll just read some of Amy Smith's notes, and then I'll let Joanne and I'll let Lisa share after that. Amy Jo wanted me to share that she's a member of the Lornicla Indian Band. She was born and raised in Merritt. She's always been passionate about education. She was supported by her grandparents and parents to follow her dream of attending university and becoming a teacher. She is our language teacher. She is a certified teacher, but she's learning Intlakatmachine alongside her students, along with using resource people and other supports to help her with the language. And she's felt this has been a great advantage, learning alongside the students. She wanted you to know that her students have really enjoyed songs and games in Intlakatmachine. They asked to sing songs they've created, and they are entirely in the language. They've been able to memorize it very quickly by using song. Language is a special part of our students' day. They're always asking when they have language class next. They look forward to it because when they come in, they connect with their language and culture. They feel safe and they feel heard. And I want to add to that learning their language and hearing their language supports their pride, their identity, and their connection to their families, their communities, and their history. Amy has built a positive and welcoming classroom, and building up that has been her top priority. Seeing students speak the language with confidence has been a highlight of her job. Those were just some of the key pieces that I wanted to share from Amy. And I'm going to turn it over now to Joanne, unless you have any questions about Amy's position.
Go for it.
Okay, and then I'll let Joanne speak to some of the great things she's been doing at MSS Central in Diamondville, and maybe some of the ways that Lisa's been supporting her. Because this is Joanne's first year as a language teacher in our district. Welcome, Joanne.
Ja, and clap. And squash Joanne Mansfield, stump. So my name is Joanne Mansfield in English, and my other name is Last Born. And I'm very appreciative of the position that I have here. I'll quickly say I can remember when I was 9 years old, growing up the only Indigenous student in my side of the school. Where I grew up at, I went home and asked my mom to teach me to count to 10. And she cried. She was so happy that there was interest from non-Indigenous people to actually know what our language was. So I use that and I carry that with me when I am teaching. That sense of pride and longing for the language. Without Lisa's support, though, I want to say that I wouldn't be as successful as I have been this year with the students, because she helped me through with the learning of how to do reports. I wasn't ISA before, so I was aware of IEPs and assessments I had never done in this way. So I wouldn't have been able to do that without Lisa's support. She also helped me with weekly planning and daily planning, and how to set time enough for the learning that we're doing, and doing workshops and such where people pay money to come to a workshop to learn the language is much different than having students come and they have to be there to learn the language. So it's very different, and it's different to teach that. So I'm really thankful for all the help she gave me. And she also helped me bring movement into the classroom, which really changed the dynamic. The students were a lot happier. For example, just doing repeats of counting 1 through 10, so it's repetitive. So the more often you hear, the more you learn. But to sit around and do that while not doing anything was rather boring. So we incorporated some movement and games in the room. And then she helped me get on that path. So bringing that movement in and creating it to be more fun. So that was really great. Some things that we've done is, some things that I have been teaching is greetings. So kindergarten to grade 4, they could go down the hallway, give you a fist pump, say "Huntla," and then they could also wave goodbye and say "Homa," see you later. And we've been counting to 10. Can I show them how we count to 10? So I've taught the kids to count to 10 by motion, with motion. So we do zoot zoot, baya, shaya, katlash, moosh, cheeks, klakamakst, chulka, pubes, depthaya, and up next. So that's part of bringing movement into the classroom that really helps the students learn. First semester, we're divided in 2 semesters. First semester, the kids learned about 150 words more. They could count to 99. They know colors, family members, animals, and we're focusing more on conversation. We've done so many different things. For Family Day, we went for a walk with Lisa. We gathered limbs to create family trees, and the kids put hearts on it because it was also Valentine's, and they wrote family members' names on the hearts. I think Lisa may have a picture of that. So now we're using puppets for conversations. We're building on our conversations that we've already learned. And that's pretty well what we're doing right now. So thank you for your time hearing me.
Thank you, Joanne. And I'll turn it over to Lisa now, and she can share her perspectives of what it's been like supporting the language teachers this year.
Does anyone have any questions for me?
Joanne, Hankla, Yaswichtamin, Henchquesh Lisa. It is truly my honor and my privilege to walk alongside our Indigenous language teachers. And I really could not put into words the growth that I've seen, not only in the students, but in our language teachers. It's a journey for sure, and there are some difficult parts of it, like Angela mentioned. We're working really creating our own curriculum as we go along, and the resources are very slim. And actually, I have one in front of me that I'm working on right now. It's a language pen that I'm actually working on that you can record and put the words into it. So lots of those resources we are creating as we go. But I truly cannot say how hard like Joanne works and all of our other language teachers. They are creating a pride and a feeling in all of our schools. So to hear the language, to see the language, and there's a feeling that goes along with that. And I think back to the days of our friend Jimmy Tulikin and his vision for language in our school district and how we've been able to build on that. And my role I see as supporting and being a coach, but also to create kind of like a base and work from there. And Joanne and I were already talking today about what it's going to look like in the future. And in the future, they are going to learn more knowledge than the adults. Yeah, go ahead.
I had said that by the time my kindergartens get to my high school class, they're gonna know more language than I know.
And so that is our goal. But there are many struggles to get there. And I'm so honored to be able to help to get there. And I love how the language teachers, they're so adaptable. For instance, many of them go to several different schools. And that is like such a hard job to go to different schools. And when the kids come into their classes, we talk a lot about classroom management because that is also a huge topic that I help with. Today, for example, we worked with the puppets and the kids love the puppets. They love the puppets from high school to primary. And I think the highlight of today was that we give them a ticket out the door. Sometimes it's like a stick game, sometimes it's a movement. And today it was introduce yourself. And there was a student today who introduced himself in both languages. It was amazing.
Yes, and like up the teen and in Silteen.
Yes. Yeah. So I really appreciate going on this journey with these wonderful people, and I hope that I can keep supporting them on this journey.
Lisa.
We probably got a few questions for you. I can remember when back in the beginning when we hired Jimmy, and some people on the board were wondering about, whether we were taking a chance with Jimmy, and I go, no, it's the opposite. He's taking a chance with us that the languages are going to flourish. And we're seeing that in your work, and I think we have 83 Indigenous grads this year. So when you speak about by the time your kindies get to grade 12, knowing more language than you do, that's going to be a good thing. Dave.
Yeah, thank you for that. It's so important and just very grateful for what you're doing. Is there support from the elders to help in the schools?
Oh, absolutely. The teachers all work hard, not only our language teachers, but our ISAs, we always really try to include knowledge keepers and elders in everything that we're doing. And that's something that the language teachers are encouraged to do, especially someone like Lisa, not Lisa, Amy, who's not a language speaker herself. She utilizes those resource people and elders as much as she can.
I'll just add to that. We will invite elders into our space to help us as often as we can, but they are already so busy and their time is so precious and used up that it is hard to sometimes get anybody to come in because they're already requested in so many other places.
Yeah, good point.
Yeah, and it was nice to see that you had a luncheon or tea for the elders.
Yes.
That was like.
Can you talk, I think tomorrow, if I remember correct, is language and culture camp, I think out at the Arbor. Can you talk a bit about that?
Yes, that's happening tomorrow, and that is for the language students at the elementary schools. And it's giving them an opportunity to get out of the school to kind of celebrate. It's coming near the end of the year, and they are going to be participating in just different stations in Intlakatmachine and in Silkshin. Yeah, I think they're there for a few hours. They're organized into teams, and the groups will be going around to different stations where they'll be playing different things like bingo. I think one station is painting on t-shirts in Tlakatmak and in Silkshin words. We've got Nechpekto there talking about the 4 food chiefs. We do have elders at a table, and they're going to be talking about different animal furs and telling the kids the names of the animal furs in each language. Those are just a couple of the sessions that will be happening tomorrow.
Trustee Ward.
Just Angela, Lisa, Joanne, our last born. Thank you for bringing meaning into this conversation and to hear how it's mattering, and like you're magical, and thank you so much for making it fun and in movement. I want to come to your class. I want to learn the words. So thank you so much. I know we have educator Mickey here and Trina as well, but you know, as a parent, and when you make it fun, you have engaged kids, and thank you for making that like super cool. You guys are doing great work.
We can get you into a class in
I'm coming.
June.
For sure.
And you're welcome to stay for the rest of the meeting, but if you have things in your evening, we understand.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh my.
Inclusive education, early learning and childcare report.
So the report is in your package. Adrienne has been working on a number of things. So one of the things that our assistant superintendent, Ms. Adrienne, did is go to Session Coffee, which has to do with early literacy. Adrienne also attended Safer Schools, is the organization that all of the districts belong to that analyze threats, both digital and the ones that occur in schools. They offered an information session about involving online threats. In light of the tragedy in Tumbler Ridge and others that we've seen, it's an important service that we subscribe to as school districts. And just offers some more information about how do you get out in front of these things, you know, recognize the risk factors. And the last one is looking at strengthening protective factors for students. So we know from our survey results, the other data that we collect, that increasing protective factors for students will lead to lifelong success. So not only academic success, but social emotional. And that's a growing need that we see amongst our population of students. And I would honestly say probably just in society in general, people are struggling with mental health and the different things that we have to deal with. So there's some good learning opportunities around these protective factors. And we're looking at how do we access this to support everyone that we come into contact with.
with our district, so.
Yeah, maybe this is for Misty, but just on the program for the early years. Do we sort of, is there a plan on how to put that? Because I saw it was cross district collaboration. Is that gonna be something for September?
Well, what this session emphasized was coming together with like-minded groups and seeing what other people. So we were able to share out a lot of the work that we're doing with our coaches and sort of thinking about how can we for next year. So that was part of the conversation, what was missing and things like resources. And I think we've spoken to that we need to make sure that our schools have the appropriate resources so that teachers can spend time teaching and trying to find things when they can have mental.
Right.
So yeah.
Question. What's a plan? You know, a lot of this care is around connection. And then summer comes and there's like these 2 months, maybe that some of our most vulnerable learners may sort of fall down into that was online. Is there something that goes home? There's some really cool key activities here. Is that shared? Is that something we can offer families?
Yeah, and I'd like to say that school teams sometimes do things a little bit differently to meet the needs of their dynamics in their schools. So it might look differently at Vermilion Forks than it looks at Colorado, as an example. But yeah, we recognize that 2 months is a long time for some families, and so what can push that? So and our counselors work hard to set summer counseling support for those high need students then when that's appropriate and making sure that food insecurities are addressed and yeah.
One of the things I would mention is when most things follow a school year calendar, Safer Schools actually operates in the summer and we pay for that service in the summer. So if there's a digital threat or worrisome behavior, we actually receive those supports. And because we're 12-month employees, you know, we reach out and find more details. So it fills a little bit of the gap. We're hoping we're able to fill that ICY clinician position because those ones are actually 12 months. We're still recruiting, but you know, there is a gap in summer. We have different things that we do in our district to support it. We work with our IEC, and there's funds provided for summer programming, so that there's connection there. But it's one of the things that we're looking at. So the nice part about that ICY position with it's staffed, it's 12 months. So there's still that service.
We're just at that branch and there's them, well, they're getting a van, but they're going into the community and connecting like community on spring breaks, Christmas breaks and summer breaks. Anyways, it's just I hope that we could share those resources.
Just on that ICY, is it similar to the counselor? Or is it like, I know it's different, but is the schooling like, are we gonna have to wait 3 years? Like what?
You want to speak?
Yeah, I'm happy to speak to. So it's different requirements than a high school counselor. So high school counselors need to have a bachelor of education plus a master's in counseling. The ICY is a clinical position, so it requires a registered clinical clinician, RCC, and that requires some extra schooling. Yeah.
So it's just not the bond.
It's competition. There's a lot of money into mental health, especially after COVID. Right now, there's probably about a 25% vacancy rate in a number of these positions. There's lots of choice for not a large pool of applicants that are coming out. So that's the struggle. We're not unique. Forget what iteration of ICY this version is. Some of the earlier programs struggle to staff it, but they're often in larger metropolitan locations. So it's easier to attract people to Vancouver or Surrey than it is to, Merritt and Kingston. So
we were phase 3. So, and we just had a program lead who we interviewed and moved forward with, and that's another clinical counselor that's part of the wraparound approach. And they just since declined to accept the position. So it's like 2 steps forward and instead of that.
Is there anything that we're doing as a district to try to encourage people to come here, or anything that we can do to beef up the attraction, the appeal, Princeton, just the entire district, just, see if we can get somebody here? Is there anything that works for that?
So there's been some recruiting that's happened. So Adrienne Mullen this is now under her portfolio, and she attends, they're called ICY meetings twice a month, once with our phase 3 and then once with the provincial partners. And there's been some recruiting efforts where we've reached out to different sites and universities who are just graduating, and other Indeed sites that and social work sites, because they will often do masters of counseling programs. So yes, there has been some recruiting efforts. Any qualified applicant that does come our way, we are always very quick to jump on and to follow up, and just it's been a process for sure.
One of the other things we did recently through the DPAC too, strengthening tech for students, was White Hatter did a presentation. I think we had 48 parents attend, which was digital medium and digital age. It brought in some new material there too. So
that one focused on artificial intelligence.
Yeah.
I actually watched that. It was almost 2 hours long.
it would be nice, instead of having 48 parents, to have a few hundred, but it was really worthwhile the changes that thought we made in that presentation. So I think it's something else we can possibly in the future with the DPAC to say, how do we continue that moving forward? So we're not 2 paces behind artificial intelligence, but maybe on the line. I think I saw Harold up in the corner of the screen on the strategic plan development.
Great, thanks, Gordon. Appreciate the opportunity and to be able to help the team do this work and see lots of familiar faces in the library today. Thinking back this time last year, we were in Princeton doing the first reading of the budget, so I'm glad that Mark is getting the opportunity to do that again this time. I'm glad he's getting him and Laura getting to do that. But I just wanted to walk the group through, and I'm going to try and share the screen. And sharing is not turned on. I'm not, Cassie, if you can.
Am I doing the presentation
help me
or?
with that. If you can, that would be great, or turn on the sharing, whatever's easiest, and maybe I can just do an intro as you're doing that. For those, again, a lot of familiar faces in the room there, but for those that don't remember, my name's Harold Cull. Worked with the team from January to February last year, or January to August, working out with Laura in the Secretary Treasurer's office until Mark was able to come on board. Working on this project, Courtney's working with Jane and I, Jane Kempston, former assistant soup, to put this together. So we just wanted to provide an update on the work to date. And maybe Cassie, if you can get us to the next slide, that would be great. Again, the focus that we're talking about is around refreshing the strategic plan. So the plan that was initially developed back in 2021 is coming to its end of its term, and the challenge now is be able to continue that great work that's been started, because the journey's not finished and the work is not done yet. Being able to refresh that, and part of the conversation we'll have tonight is around through consultation earlier in the fall of 2025, the sense we received from those conversations and the input from rights holders, students, parents, and the community and partners in general, was the direction that the board had set for that initial plan is still relevant. It still resonates with people, and it's still the direction that we're heading. So it's just a matter of now looking at the plan, being able to kind of flush it out with providing some more defined, tangible deliverables through performance measures and strategies, and just being able to continue to enhance and have the strategic plan process mature within the district. And again, always, taking a look at that bottom right corner, continuing to make sure that we're focusing on student success and being able to move the needle as much as we can in that regard. So maybe Cassie, if you can just flip this over. So again, the purpose of it is to take the existing plan and ensure that the direction that the board has set remains current. So we're working our way through that process, and we'll talk about some of the feedback we've received so far in a slide or two. And then again, making sure that the tangible pieces around goals, strategies, and performance measures come in as the board provides their plan to Courtney and the team to be able to deliver, definitely makes it much easier for the work we do as a district to be able to have those strategies laid out. And then the performance piece, as well as making sure that the work that we are doing is contributing to student success, being able to measure that and measuring how well we are being able to improve students' performances. So maybe getting to this next slide. So the approach that we're taking is to, again, build off of what we heard back in the fall around the consultation process that were being discussed. Part of that was to start to kind of create that environmental scan of the system of the district through that process as a starting point. I know it was Courtney's idea and wanted to build the capacity within the group is to create a strategic plan working committee, have some trustees on it, senior leadership is well represented, but also, and more importantly, probably having rights holders and our partner groups around that table, having the conversations, being engaged in the process, and really having a lot of touch points on creating that plan and providing that feedback. So when the board does sit down with a document that it can review and consider, we know that it's been well thought through, it's been shared, it's been created together through all of those groups. So that was key on creating the plan, but also to build capacity within the system to understand the work of the board and how we're going to be able to deliver on it. Maybe flipping to the next one, Cassie, in terms of the four-step process we're taking, we're kind of halfway through and completed steps 1 and 2, or at least have done the initial work on steps 1 and 2. So step 1 was taking our current vision, mission, and value statements, and Jane was able to work us through a process of what to keep, what to revise or change, and are there any gaps? Or are there any pieces missing that we need to be able to make sure we fill? So that was kind of the first work that we had done as a working committee on April 24th. And then flipping to the next slide, we got back together on May 1st to start the process of starting to create things. And these were the goals and the long-term direction of the board work. So this is kind of the switch point where, from a governance perspective, on doing the what. So the board has the opportunity of creating that direction and what the work of the board or what the work of the district is going to be. And then they pass that on to the staff to be able to figure out the how and then how well. So these are very important. The goals are very important in that direction setting process that the board goes through. So as you see through the document that we provided as part of the board package, starting to get some themes together that were discussed and developed through the consultation process. They resonated when Jane was able to sit down and talk with the students at bench, and that consistency and that correlation was very strong. But the work and the important of the goals is kind of coming up with some single key words that we're calling priority areas. And we started to use some working titles in the slides that we'll talk a little bit about around learning, well-being, and connection as well. So as we work through those themes, those are starting to come to the forefront in terms of priority areas. And again, they're working titles right now, but starting to focus largely our work around strategy development and so forth will be kind of around those key priority areas. And then part of the process, making sure that we understand exactly what we mean and understanding exactly what we need to be able to achieve. We'll develop some goal statements around those priorities areas to make sure that we're all on the same page in terms of what we mean by these priority areas. So the future work, as we kind of shift to the next slide and start to talk about steps 3 and 4. So we still have a couple meetings set up for, I think it's the 22nd and the 29th of this month, to be able to continue that work. And that's when we'll start to roll up our sleeves and really get down to kind of the tangible strategies that we are going to be able to start to look at and continue to do. It was great to hear Angela and the team talk about all the great work that the Indigenous Education Department is doing around cultural and language. And that's a great example. A lot of great work is obviously happening within the district. So part of that, part of the plan and part of the refresh of the strategic plan is be able to document that great work and continue to look ahead and still see what's missing, what still needs to be done, and that will all come through the strategy development. And then the final piece is around performance measures, making sure we understand, the work that we're doing, the resources that we are investing in the system are making a difference, and being able to measure that performance against certain criteria is going to be important. We're not going to have a whole bunch of quantitative measures that we'll be looking at. We'll have a few key measures that will be able to add to the qualitative narrative that will continue to create, and that will form the part of the reports that will be provided to the board, will be provided to the ministry, that will complement the financial statements that Mark and Laura do, to be able to reflect the work that we're doing. So it's going to be both qualitative and quantitative, but we need to have some performance measures to be able to get a good sense on the quantitative side. So that will be part of the development as well. So maybe just flipping, so proposed timeline. So we're here on May 13th. So it's kind of, again, it's a nice little split between the vision, mission, value, work, and goals. Really the lead is the strategic direction that's being set by the board. And then kind of as we transition to more of the operational side is creating those tangible strategies and performance measures. So part of the conversation I wanted to have tonight, and that's included in the materials, is around having this information and having these conversations as we work through to the June 10th board meeting, still at the conceptual level. So we wanted to make sure, and I think it's important that the momentum and the engagement levels that we have with the working committee is great. And I don't want that group and us as a system to get bogged down into wordsmithing quite yet. I think the ideas are starting to continue to flow, and it's important to be able to do that. So the intent is to bring kind of that framework with a lot of these ideas starting to really formulate and really starting to hopefully stick for the board to review and discuss and kind of let us know if we're on the right direction. And if we are, great. If not, we can adjust. But then from that point on, then we start to work about the statements, making sure we focus on the words and so forth. So we want to make sure that we've got a good sense on the direction we're heading with that framework before we start getting down to the wordsmithing and making sure that we've got the right words in the right place at the right time. I don't want to be able to cut off conversations too early in the process. So that's the plan right now, and then we'll bring back a full strategic plan for the board to consider and debate and eventually hopefully approve in their meeting or at your meeting on September 9th. So ready for the start of the school year. Cass, if you can maybe get us to the next one. So just very quickly, I know you've got lots of work still to do tonight. So on terms of the overall plan, what we heard through the process that Jane went through in terms of change, keep, change, and gap, the strat plan wanted to make sure it was concise, and then that we had some direct references to the truth and reconciliation work that continues in the district. John did a great job on the second meeting of the working committee talking about the balance between policies and protocol. Part of the package today was trying to make sure that we continue on and honor that. And I'm definitely not doing as good as job anywhere near that John was able to do with the working committee. But the importance of that work and how do we use the strat plan and continue to use that as a mechanism to be able to do that important work. As we shift the next gear, next slide to talk about kind of the vision, lots of feedback on this still being very relevant. It's nice and concise. Still, the direction from the working group feels that this is still the direction that we're heading. So most of the feedback was around mission, which is, I believe, on the next slide. And we did a summary that talks about the importance of safe and nurturing learning environments and excellence in teaching and learning and so forth. Those were keeps, still relevant, still important. Change, again, going back to some of the previous comments about making sure it's less wordy, that we have references to numeracy and literacy, and I think we would add social emotional learning to that list as well. And making sure that we also talk about, in terms of gaps, our collective responsibility, not only us as a district and as a system, but also the role our community and our families play in student success, and making sure that the plan and the mission specifically is able to address that. The next piece is starting to talk about the goals. So if Cassidy can get us to the next slide. So again, the priority areas, what we heard, so this was from our last meeting, starting with that initial set of goals and objectives from the current plan of meaning and purpose, appreciation, respect, and connection, going through the conversations with the students and their voice, the work that was done through the consultation process. These were the themes that started to bubble up. And then through the process, Jane was able to lead us. Again, now we're starting to get to more of the priority areas of learning, well-being, and connection. And speaking from experience, having those priority areas are key in terms of being able to keep the plan in the forefront and people's mind. We're, looking back at the plans I've been involved with, I wouldn't be able to, I understand the vision and mission and the direction we're heading, but I can remember, learning, engagement, and growth as an example, and the importance of those three priority areas and how that factored into the work that we did, be it on a board agenda or on a leadership team work session. Having those kind of key themes throughout keeps the strat plan alive, keeps that work in the forefront and so forth. So these are some of the kind of priority areas that are starting to bubble up. So next steps. So we're going to continue the work of revising the mission priority areas and goals. So that's the work that's already started. We're going to start to develop those strategies and performance measures and bring back that conceptual framework for the board's consideration at your next board meeting in June. And then from that, we'll have the conversation about, are we on the right page? Are we going in the right direction in terms of the expectations and making sure we meet those expectations of the board? To come back with a strat plan that we can kick the tires on and make sure that we get right for the board's consideration. So as we open up next school year, we'll have hopefully have a refreshed strat plan to be able to divide or to design most of that work. So maybe on that note, I'll turn it back to Gordon to see if there's any kind of questions that I can, or maybe Courtney can answer for the trustees.
Trustee board, and then I'll go to myself.
Hey Harold, great job. Just speaking, for some of us, maybe we're just hearing about this, it's a public board meeting. What does that working group consist of? Like, who's there? Is it just you and Jay?
Nope, it's a great question. So we've got some trustees. We've got the senior leadership team, Courtney and Mark and Misty. We've got rights holders, a number of different rights holders representing the different nations, as well as the partner groups. So it's quite wide range. And Courtney, I'm not sure we've got a number. Is it probably 12 to 15 kind of group size of the group?
Three teachers.
Three teachers?
Three administrators. And then Chanel Robertson is the DPAC representative on the government side.
Thank you.
And QP's there.
So we have an ISA representing QP, so that's a lovely piece. We've had a number of our rights holders come forward to serve on the committee, and some of them serve a dual role because not only do they represent the nation, they also have children in our district. So it's nice to hear that piece. Our group, if we're all in the room together, I think is 22 people. So credit to Gordon starting us off in a really good way at our first meeting. John came in and did a really lovely talk about the intersection of protocol and policy. Very well received by the group. We had a nice group of people come forward who want to participate. Really positive, get down to work feeling in the room. And I think the board is going to be pretty pleased with what the group is going to come up with.
One thing we haven't talked about as a board yet. One thing between COVID, fires and floods that I think we missed on is kind of a how are we doing report to actually, if we took that group of 23 and had them come back in a year and said, so where do you see us now? And then did that at a later period, so we could kind of keep that anchor piece there to know it was one thing for us to think we're doing great, but to bring that group back that worked on it to say, so
Where are we at with this?
where are we at with this? What change are you seeing or not changing? Or where do we need to tweak it? Because something we thought was brilliant, isn't quite hitting the mark. And then how do we fund some of that to make sure, because a lot of our budget should be driven by this private plan. Everett's got his hand up too, I think.
Yeah, I just wanted to thank Harold for the summary. Well done. Captured definitely what's happening in those meetings for sure. Jane's doing a great job facilitating. Senior leadership team's doing a great job. lots of good conversation. Pretty confidently got 2 more meetings left, and then hopefully we're ready to, have that discussion at the board table on June 10th. But the work's definitely going in a direction that I think we can be proud of, right?
So you're looking forward to leading that discussion at the board table June 10th? That's our wrap.
Sure, but once I start talking, I won't stop, right?
We're good. Any other questions for Harold? Well, thank you, Harold. And if you have other things you want to do tonight, no, you're fine.
I would love to have Mark, listen to Mark go through the first reading of the budget, but I'll bid you adieu and I'll talk to you guys later.
It's pretty riveting, you know.
It is real riveting. Thanks, everyone. I'll talk to everybody.
Thanks, Harold.
Move on to the volume 7, the superintendent's report.
You know what? I love all the things in here and I really try hard not to steal your thunder from your PAC meetings, so I only will speak to one event per school. So first up is John Allison. And the person I wanted to highlight was Erin Williams' dedication to the well-being of the students at John Allison. You know what, like every morning she's there early, she ensures that everyone walks through the door, has access to a nutritious snack, just really the heart of staff coming forward and making sure that there's that connection. So I just wanted to highlight that. There's always really wonderful things going on at JA. The Still NFS staff work incredibly hard to make sure that those kids feel loved and supported. So just really good work going on there. When we look at bench, the one I wanted to highlight is the after school program is running at bench until Friday. And they've been participating in a number of activities, so Taekwondo, dance, playing outside, and then arts and crafts. Our after school programs are very well received. I wish that we could get additional grant funding to be able to run more of them, but our team does a lot for the little dollars, and it's really good experiences for our kids. Looking at Nicola Canford, this one I saw on Facebook was their Ninja Warrior. Bert does a really good job at his
We
school.
don't want to talk about climbing walls, right?
Well, we're not gonna talk about that, but just really fun things that highlight, the good pieces of coming together, and showing that, when you practice and put the hard work in, there's good results that come along that. Looking at the Community Learning Center, one of the things I thought that was great was the grad dress pop-up boutique. And if you've ever watched Say Yes to the Dress, they have a cute little sign there. If we stay on track, we're thinking we may have double-digit grads coming out of CLC this year. We got fingers crossed because we still have about a month and a half to go. But that would be absolutely amazing. And Allison, who was our teacher there, and our other support staff, they are really bonded with their kids. We are trying to get as many kids to a regular high school graduation, so adulthood. And for some of our other students, an adulthood is the right fit for them right now. But we're cautiously optimistic that there's some really good pieces that are going to come out of there. Looking at Merit Secondary, one of the things that I think sets us apart a little bit, and big credit to Dave and Louie around this, the SD58 rocks. Yeah. Yes. So the opportunity to do the heavy equipment operator, I think we all know that there is a shortage of skilled labor coming, as baby boomers move out of the trades. There's a gap, and by providing these opportunities, this also opens some doors that kids may not have thought about previously. So just a lot of credit to our admin and our staff that go out of way to make those experiences for the kids a reality. And I know the kids that participate thoroughly enjoy the work there. Central always has a lot of activities. Natasha, I think, goes for the most pages. I think I'm gonna give her an award at the end of the year. She loves to share the great work that goes on there. Just wanted to give a shout out to 3 of our teachers there, so Mrs. Narndale, Mrs. Comey, and Mr. Shea, who supported the kids with district rugby. We have a lot of teachers that step up and help and make this a reality. And I know especially for Mr. Shea and Mrs. Comey, they often are stepping up and helping support extracurriculars and teams at MSS when they work at Central. So just a real credit to them. And not only do they support the students in their school, they're also supporting kids at our high school level as well. And we really appreciate the time and the effort that they give to that. So just a shout out for them. And looking at PSS, so as part of the work that we do as educators is we do Indigenous PD, and our Indigenous PD looks a little bit different because we actually do 2 sessions typically after school. PSS, John Ellison and Rebellion Forks engaged in one of the activities they looked at was the Indigenous People Floor Mat of Canada. So learning about those pieces. I assumed that Indigenous PD dates just happened in all school districts, and I've learned that that's not necessarily the case. So I think that's something that, you know, we set a good example with, and I'm hoping with the new tripartite agreement that's coming forward that we actually see that happening in all school districts. It's something I think that we can really be proud of. Angela works really hard with our principals to support that, because part of what we do for Indigenous PD goes to our Indigenous Education Council, and they give us advice around what would be potentially quality PD. And we're looking to make that a little bit more robust as we move forward, but some really good pieces going on. When we look at Diamondville, Jason Simon, retired NHL player, came to speak to students. He went to a few schools, but I just wanted to highlight it at Diamondville. Really talked about resilience, perseverance, and self-care. The kids were thrilled that he came and gave this talk. So just really nice to see that we're able to get quality speakers and make connections with our students. And then we actually had our presentation from our kids that went to Quebec City and Montreal. I think this is one of the best things that we do in our French immersion program, the opportunity to actually use the French language consistently and be fully immersed in that culture. And, you know, they spoke to the different cultural pieces that they were able to do. There's a lot of hard work that goes into that trip, you know, from parents fundraising to staff and parents who went to support it, but just, I think it's one of the nicest things that we do in our French immersion program right now. And then looking at Vermilion Forks, the one I wanted to highlight is they did a Spirit Week, Freaky Friday, Crazy Hair Day. It was developed by their leadership group, and it brought a nice energy and enthusiasm. You know that DFE has had a tough couple of years, and I think we're on an upward mobility right now. And it's nice to see, you know, something that the kids planned and bringing some joy coming forward. It's really nice to see those smiles and that. So I hope they did not steal anyone's thunder from their packing. So.
Any questions for the superintendent? So go to the board meeting dates.
Okay, thank you. So before you is proposed board meeting dates for the next school year, 26-27. Traditionally, we like to alternate board meetings between Princeton and Merritt, and we also attempt to have board meetings on this, usually on the second Wednesday of the month. There's a few exceptions to the list you'll notice there next year. So in September, we're moving into the third Wednesday, and that's to allow for the fact that we have a late start to the school year on the 7th, so it just gives staff more time to get things ready before the first board meeting. And then also again in November, we're moving into the first Wednesday to allow for Remembrance Day, and that'll be the first meeting after the trustee elections. So we'll get the oath of office in there for the new board and get them working. Other than that, the schedule follows and such.
And I asked Mark to follow the same process we followed last time there was elections, just to set out the entire year so that people who are thinking of running for school district will already know the expectations on those dates ahead of time. No, I think it's just information.
Okay.
Unless someone's violently disagreeing with the dates, I'll say those are the dates. French immersion relocation update.
So the classrooms have been assigned at Central for both French and for English. Facilities and the schools have created a labeling system. This is lesson learned from previous moves that we've had to do. So that when we pack it up at one school, we know where it's headed and we look correctly at the next school. So we're not searching through the building to find a box. And making sure that they're going to go to the right classroom. We'll have a second library for French immersion. If you think the library at Central, it is very full. Leanne does a great job bringing in resources there. Initially, we thought that we might have to store some of the resources for both English and French and rotate them, but we were actually able to find a classroom space. We'll be able to have a separate library and 2 library spaces, which I think is going to be great for that side of the school. We're also looking at, before we move our books, we're doing a weeding process. So part of the work of librarians is to go through the collection, pull titles that the book physically is not in good shape, but as times change, so does content of books. So what's acceptable and what isn't. So that's part of the work that's done in the weeding of the collection. And we're also investing in new library resources. So between the French immersion program and the English program at Central, they've received $5,500 for new library resources. So it'll be a nice piece as they transition. We've also invested in library resources at all of our other schools as well, including our alternate programs. But because we're doing the discussion of the relocation, I just thought I would put that in there. Reassignments and staffing has been completed, so Brandon knows who his teachers will be. He's currently working on the timetable and what they're going to be covering off. And he hopes to have that done by end of the month. I think is where he's aiming for. There's 5 exciting events planned. One of them is actually happening tonight. I think it's already started and finished at this point. They've been promoted through social media and school posters. There's also a copy of the poster in my superintendent's report, so getting that message out. And then plans are in progress for a farewell at the end of June for the college. So, when a chapter closes, you want to make sure that you paid proper homage to the school and as they move to a new location, it's new opportunities to make new memories, but you will want to have that opportunity to say goodbye in a meaningful way.
Jamie, and then Dave, and then myself.
You mentioned that there was other schools that got the money. Was that all of them? Was it 5,500 for each of them?
So we did it on a proportional basis. So Princeton, the 3 libraries ended up, it was just over 8,000 between them. MSS is our biggest school, so they got a larger amount. But the elementaries were pretty consistent. It was typically somewhere around $2,000 to $3,000. Their population sizes are a little bit different, so we kept that in mind.
Just you, Mayor.
Yeah, I think earlier, then trustee Jepson was saying something about weeding the packs that schools both packs through, so that's.
So that's the plan. So I've asked him to meet with both of them. So he meets with his Collettville pack, but I've also asked him to be able to attend the Central pack as well, so he can introduce himself. So we're looking at that piece just before the transition, because we'd really like to see both packs come together as we forge ahead with the dual track school.
Has some US election, yeah. I'll go.
I was gonna ask, is anything that has come up so far that, to come to this table that we can support with for the move or the transition?
Right now, I'd say no, but if it does, we'll bring it forward right away. Most of it's switched from governance to operations now that the decision has been made. So we're just working our way through the pieces. As soon as we have them completed, we like to then communicate out those pieces. One of the things we've been asked about is additional mental health support. So our intermediate counseling model works a little bit differently. So typically, it tends to be a little bit slower at the start of September and into October. So what our itinerant counselors actually do is we expect them to be in schools and in classrooms, identifying if there's any challenges. So obviously we're looking at Merit Central as we transition and bring them together. That will make sure that, you know, they're given robust supports there as well. You know, always a little bit of anxiety when you're moving to a new building. So, and our longtime intermediate counselor, Lynn Dixon, has retired. She is quite the loss, but we're happy to say Ken Ellis, who is a pretty known quantity at MSS in the counseling, is actually moving into that role. So I think it'll be a great transition for him as well. Lots of connections in the community and with families. So I think that'll be a nice fit.
There were some questions at DPAC on Monday around moving of playground equipment, and we reminded people that back during the 16 sessions, one of the things we're asked to do was not move playground equipment. And the other was the outdoor classroom, and we already have an outdoor classroom at Central. And the other one, our understanding from the contractor is moving that would cost as much as building it. So, and it was built as an outdoor classroom space. And I think the concern for some of the Collegeville parents was the amount of shade at Central, that which is different from outdoor classroom spaces. But we addressed both of those at the meeting, Misty.
Yeah.
So
And
those are some that come up.
with the new pack to possibly, that's something you wanted to fundraise or advocate for, maybe there's member of the community that got all of their time, resources to moving something like that. Something endeavor to do.
Yeah,
With our support.
Yeah. Any other questions for superintendent on the school? And a school name change piece for you, where we would need a name change to be formally approved by the board and initiate communication with the ministry. And so as to work out the word "cool" in front of Merit Central Elementary School, which is official across the province. So I'm looking for a motion to seek the name change. Is that to submit that to the ministry, moved by Kent Laidlaw?
Just a question for you.
Second,
Wait,
and then
second.
Yeah.
Is there a consultation process involved in that? That's like required by the ministry or not?
It's a board decision.
It's a board decision because we're, and I say we, across the province, traditionally don't be put the French word for school in front of the name, and that's what we're suggesting.
So can you repeat how it's going to read again?
Read Ecole Merit Central Elementary School.
So school in there twice.
Yes, really.
That's how they do it, but it's, we just followed the model that other dual track
Other
schools
dual
use.
track schools are named the same way?
Yeah, I know it seems odd, but that's how they do it, so.
There was some questions early on in some of our consultation meetings about changing the name of the school, and our schools in Merritt are all named by the catchment area. So Collegeville, because that was the Collegeville community originally. Bench because it's Bench, Nicola Canford's because it's Nicola Canford. So it didn't make sense to name Central something other than it's been named for the last 60 years.
Yep.
But, so we do. Anyone opposed? Okay, that is, we'll take care of that. See any feedback on the merit wire? I don't know, I made a mistake. Amendment notice bylaw 2.23. And this was we got this recommendation from the last AGM at SD58 that for open board meetings to make sure they're not used to promote potential candidates in upcoming school trustee elections, whether it's incumbent trustees or people who are running for the board, to suspend delegation presentations between the start of the nomination period, which is September, until general voting day. So that's what's in front of you. We're going to amend bylaw 2-23. So this is notice of intent for the which would then be brought forward as a bylaw at the board's open meeting in June. So it's just providing intent now for that. Okay. Any questions for Mark? Okay. I'll speak to trustee remuneration. As you know, we have a policy around it. The 2024, it wasn't moved forward for January 2025, so that was missed. So we're doing both years before you get. So we're doing it by the consumer price index, which was 2.4% December of 2024, and 2.1%, which is the CPI. 2025. Before you get all excited, that's about 56 cents an hour. You're getting an increase, so don't spend it everywhere. And that is less than what we're doing in contract with our QP teachers, which is at 3%. So that and as our policy, which is currently there, is it gets adjusted. January 1st, so it'll be adjusted, and the previous adjustment that was missed will be done as well. And you have the rates there in front of you.
Just for the future, Mark, is there going to be a process for it? Well, I think
we'll calendarize it so that it happens in November, December, and then automatically. It should have happened, it didn't, and none of you yelled that you missed your 12%, 12 cents. So I know it's a lot there that you.
I think we'll bring it forward to the board just for transparency, but it's not something to vote on. No, it's just
the reason we created the policy was the trustees. It's never a good time to do it before or after during an election, so we just created a policy to tie it to that. So that's the next step. Next is the quarterly financial update.
Okay. So in your package, I've included a quarterly update to the end of March 31st, which is considered Q3, and we're looking at the annual budget, the fiscal year. So I'm just going to go through quickly what we're tracking to, and normally when we're looking at our salaries and benefits for 10-month staff, such as our teachers and EAs, at the end of March, we should have been 70% for our budget, and for our other support staff and our administrative professionals, we should be at 75% of the budget spend, considering that they're 12-month staff. Right now, we're tracking just a little bit lower than that, and that's because some of our teaching staff are earning lower than what we budgeted. We've had less replacements than what we budgeted. Replacement staff budgeting is always such a wild card. You never know how much illness and leave they have within the year. This year, it just appears to be that we're tracking lower than that. On the supplies and services side, again, we should be probably in the 75% range. We're tracking closer to 65%. We anticipate spending will go up near the end of the year as we have more field trips, at schools. They've been cautious to spend their budgets, been very prudent, and now when I've talked to principals, they're in a place where they spend those resources. So we should see that come up near the end.
Questions for the Secretary Treasurer and Law?
So if the schools don't spend their budget for this year, does it carry over?
No, so that's what, the point being is we really don't impress upon schools to spend this year. We don't want them hoarding for future years. So, yeah, there might be a lag if they're buying resources now, you're thinking, well, there's 7 or 8 weeks left of the school year, chances are they're gonna spend those resources on next year's students, but for all intents and purposes, but.
Make sure they're getting what they need.
Well, we wanted them to spend it on, the money was for this school year to support student learning. We wanted to spend on this year's student learning, not bankrolled for.
Sure, why are supplies at, why 55%? I heard you say like they're a little bit cautious, so now we're looking at spending 45% in the last 7 weeks. Is that wrong? Am I wrong?
Yeah.
What is that about?
55. We've had some challenges within some of our departments.
Okay.
Of not spending money, and that's across our district, that's not within the schools themselves. The schools themselves are probably in the 60-some%. So
right.
Yeah. So we do have some resources that will probably carry forward to next year.
Okay.
And we do know our fuel costs for our buses, we are spending more for the last month. That's going to continue to hit us.
Oh, yeah.
We're about $2 a liter now, so we've probably gone up in our fuel costs by 50%.
Straight almost.
The other thing I would caution is, Laura and I have really been pushing people to get their invoices and their receipts in. Because sometimes they're not coming as quickly as we would, and it's often outside vendors that are taking their time in getting these invoices. We're doing a push by the end of this month that it would really, if you're gonna order something, you wanna get it ordered and here before June 30th, because that's, July 1st is when the fiscal year starts. For our teachers that have remedy around class size, I've also let them know, like, we give them the option of purchasing classroom resources, that if they want that, they need to have it ordered in here by June 30th as well. If they don't spend it, it just goes to their PP accounts and the unions hold on to it, but some of them like to use it for classroom resources, we're just encouraging. We've also been pretty frugal over the last 2 years, so people were a little bit more nervous to spend. But I've been very clear with them, we give you the money in your school budgets, we want you to spend it this year on your kids, so that you're getting what you need.
Can I ask a question on that? So that's a principal deal with that budget, right? And then they have, I'm assuming, monthly meetings and teachers will be like, hey, this is our budget, what do we need? Is that how that goes?
It really depends on the school, on the principal and the budget. There's not a lot of flexibility because they don't get huge school budgets. And some of them transportation. So a big one is the field trips all come at the end of the year.
Yeah.
So it's not truly a true reflection because they're gonna spend almost all of their transportation dollars in May and June. Most likely May, because they save them up for those year-end trips. And then it really depends on, if they're looking at resources around math or ELA or science, what, they're gonna have a discussion with their staff, or they should, because you don't wanna just buy resources if no one's gonna use them. But that piece, they don't have a lot of play in their budgets. Photocopying actually takes up a significant amount, and that's what we actually see most schools go over, is they're in their photocopy budget.
Are we talking like $4,000, or are we talking like 95,000?
Like schools, it would be less, like $4,000, but it's pretty significant if your budget was like 12,000, right? So they have to make sure that their numbers all align at the end. So what we said is, you know, when you build your budget at the beginning of the year, you know, you tentatively put it where you want. And Mark's been doing some good work going out to the schools this year around that. But in the end, you know, you can spend it in different lines. And what we said, it's actually better to overrun certain lines and leave others, because sometimes what would happen in the past is they'd be like, oh, I have money in transportation, but I need it for this set of books. So I'm just gonna code it to that line. That's actually not helpful when you move forward in a budget process. You wanna know what you're actually spending in that budget line. So when you build your tentative or preliminary budget, you wanna make sure that you've allotted enough in the correct line. In the end, it all comes out in the wash, as long as they don't go over their school budgets. I don't know, do you wanna add anything?
You're kind of coaching.
Yeah, that's exactly, just trying to encourage. I tell the principals, we want to give you a pot of money.
Yeah.
You know best how to run the school. I mean, you can consult Misty and Courtney, but really it's yours. We're not going to hold you to each line item because you have to be flexible.
And the autonomy.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
And I bought Bonnie and more because I see everything that's over 5,000. So recently I saw stuff that hadn't been put in since October, all of a sudden 17, because of 17,000. I needed to see it, whereas if they had done it each month, I would have never seen it. So I was kind of hard, you know, they need to get them in so that we don't have, you know, one school like that is a surprise isn't bad. If all of a sudden you had 11 schools, it's, you know, all of a sudden it was $100,000 surprise. So that's just a piece to make sure that the dollars are cycling and they're taking care of their books.
Is that an admin process that we can strengthen?
Mark is actually working on our APs around purchasing and those other pieces, so that's part of his portfolio. So we have our policies in place, now we need to touch up the admin procedures.
And then you also have, whenever we finish off the water line issue at Diamondville, that's something we weren't anticipating, so that's going to be a hit. There's a water line there, stuff moved, but we also found out the pipe was wrapped in asbestos, which means the cost will be 2 times higher. So we covered it up again because now we need an abatement group to come in. So there's some things like that that happen to go loose.
They're trying to get it done before the end of June. We thought it would be quicker and less expensive, but then when you see asbestos, so you have to wait for the specialized abatement team to come in. So that's what we're waiting for right now.
So instead of 20, it's gonna be 60.
Daryl figured it, first one probably about between 12 and 15. We're probably looking at closer to 45 to 55. I won't know for sure because I don't know how much of the pipe that they have to do abatement on. They need to come in and do that piece, but anytime you get close to asbestos, it triples or quadruples the price. And we haven't been hit so much by it yet, but I suspect we're gonna start seeing fuel surcharges with the cost of gas, because if they're not local, they typically charge us to come. Sometimes we pay mileage, sometimes there's a fuel surcharge. I haven't seen that, but I suspect it's probably coming if gas is gonna remain this high. So it'll be an additional cost. It's kind of like the grocery store. If it's costing more to the semis to bring the groceries in, the cost is gonna get passed on to the consumer. When we have to order or repair items, we're probably going to start seeing fuel charges if it doesn't. So I hope not, because that will add to our inflationary costs, but it's something we should probably be prepared for. Thank you.
Other questions on the update? Seeing none, budget development memo.
Okay, I'm gonna share this one on screen so you can see it. So what I'm showing is basically the breakdown of our operating budget and how it's changing for next year. So the middle column is our current budget that we're running right now is our amended 25-26, and then to the left is the proposed new budget that we're reading first reading tonight for 26-27 and the changes. So I'll quickly run through some of the differences here. So right out of the gate with our provincial grants. That's the funding we get due to our student enrollment. And as we all know, the student enrollment is projected to drop next year. So we're projecting a 1.25 million drop in revenue in the provincial government there. We have a few small adjustments in our rentals and leases and investment income, just from some activity there. And we currently had a higher bank balance, which seems funny with the situation we've been in, but we've reviewed this, and this is the projected income we can see for next year. Moving on to our expense side. So most of these employee groups are decreasing in salaries, and that's due to budget cuts when enrollment related positions such as teachers and EAs are dropping, and that's a direct result of the student drop. The principals and vice principals, that's as a result of the school closure, as well as support staff drop is also due to the school closure. Just for completeness, the other professionals was the transition in our assistant superintendent position this year. And then I made a small provision for a drop in substitute. And again, as I said in the quarterly report, it's hard to gauge the substitute cost, but we've made an educated guess here as to where it should land for next year. And supplies and services is going up slightly. The large influx would be for the inflationary factor. And we are hoping to put some more learning resources in there. Again, because of the large variance we had this year, as we're seeing that maybe we've over budgeted some supplies areas like your utilities and such, we feel confident we can bring some of those down. So the net result is only a 0.9% increase in our overall supplies and services for next year. So what this does, and format I'd like to show here is saying we're projecting a $542,000 surplus. And then there's a few adjustments we have from using some of our restricted funds, which is targeted funds that we have for IC, integrated child youth, and our Indigenous ed that come into play. But then you want to make sure we're always budgeting for capital refresh, like our laptops, our tables, and custodial equipment. This needs to be prudently budgeted. So looking at the refreshment schedule for the next few years, we're budgeting for a need of $530,000 for replacements, which brings the bottom line down to excess of revenues over expenses of $192,000, which doesn't necessarily mean we have other positions we could have hired or things like that. This is our cushion, our wiggle room for anything that could go sideways on us. And if you look at the bottom, there's a little red number of 2.23%. And what that is if all things came to pass and you realize this year's amended budget having ending the year with an excess of close to $100,000 in revenue, and then meet that $192,000, we move our unrestricted reserve up to 2.23% of operating expenses, which is within policy, and we need to do that. So it's not that I've left a lot of money on the table. It's a prudent budget.
We call the policies 2 to 4%, so we're only. Yeah. And we know from past experience, if something happens, we can eat that up pretty quickly.
And sorry, just a quick question. And just to clarify, if we get more students, then this all becomes easier for more money from the ministry.
So yeah, if we exceed our enrollment projections, then more money comes in on the top line. What's baked in there that I haven't shown explicitly is actually something called funding protection. So we actually don't drop as low as we could have with a potential drop. So having said that, it's two edges, sword. If we increase a few students, our income actually doesn't go up, really, because we're probably still at the floor.
So this particular 25 million and change is actually the flooding protection level?
Yes.
If we had, say, more kids come in through skies, the ministry would
Lower.
give money on one side and take it off on the other side, so we wouldn't all of a sudden get, oh, we've got an extra 100 students in skies, that means we just got $200,000. The ministry would go, no, we already factored in your drop, so it made a difference, so.
So we lose our funding protection is what happens. It's meant as a stabilizing force, but you're not guaranteed that money because if there's shifts in your population, like to the good, then they don't have to give you those extra dollars. So even if we see an influx in, we may not see an increase in revenues.
But we shouldn't drop below.
We won't drop below that because that's the funding protection in there.
If that's 51 students, though, we'd have to go to a net increase of 52 students to see a difference.
So it's a good thing that funding protection exists, but basically they wean you off it over time is what happens. So basically they give you a little bit of a cushion so that you don't have to cut as deep as you would have if they didn't put the funding protection in place. But it's really meant to kind of soften the blow. But you're not going to soften the blow if you just put it all into staffing, because then when the money drops again, then you have to let go of those positions, which is, so it's a little bit of a double-edged sword. But with the cost of inflation, which is actually trending higher than what our auditors said, because at the very beginning of the year when they did their assessment, they told us if everything stayed the same and we didn't lose any kids, it was about an additional 250,000 we'd have to come up with. It seems to be tracking closer to about 320-ish right now with inflation. And we won't know until we get the labor settlement funding. If we find out if we're the winner or the loser in that. And we're not sure if the increases to benefits are going to be funded or not. There's always a lot of unknowns, unfortunately. More.
All jobs are good. The next piece is our annual budget bylaw. This will be for first reading with second and final reading at our June meeting. So I'll just read it out because we are required to. And first reading is no debate; it's just to get it out to the public. So it's the Board of Education of School District 58, Nicholas and Milkameen, called the board to adopt the annual budget of the board for the fiscal year 26-27 pursuant to section 113 of the School Act. As amended from time to time and called the Act, the board has complied with the provisions of the Act, ministerial orders, Ministry of Education and Child Care policies respecting the annual budget adopted by this bylaw. This bylaw may be cited as School District 58 Nicholas and Milkameen annual budget bylaw for fiscal year 26-27. The attached statement 2, which is in your package, shows the estimated revenue and expenses for the 26-27 fiscal year. And the total budget bylaw amount of $40,573,111 for the 2026-2027 fiscal year was prepared in accordance with the Act, and statements 2, 4, and schedules 2 and 4 are adopted as the annual budget of the board for the fiscal year 2026-2027. I need a motion for first reading.
A motion that the Board of Education School District 15 Nicholas and Milkameen be at first reading to the 2026-2027 annual budget bylaw specifying the total $111.
In a second here. Second by Trustee Kenny Laidlaw. Any further discussion? And first reading is passed. We'll see what commentary we have coming back between now and June. Thank you, everyone. We have no policies for first reading. For second reading, there's policy 1.31, which is the role of the superintendent, and policy 1.32, which is the role of the secretary treasurer. These are ones that were recommended by the Minute-Free and the BC School Trustees Association. Do we have anything come in between first and second reading?
No, so it goes to Cassie and nothing has come in. So we'll send it out one more time. And we'll see if there's any feedback.
There's number third policy, those policies recommended for appeals. We've already had our student trustee report, because that was part of the travel trip update, which brings us to trustee Jepson.
Oh, okay. Well, I know about Central because we met last night. Highlights from Central PAC were they met with the Belleville PAC on April 30th. To kind of introduce themselves to each other and talk about their plans for ending off this year and beginning next year. Just kind of get to know again, where are you at? We talked a little bit about finances and plan to what to do with their budgets, and then a little bit about school culture and next year and what it's gonna look like. So that was an exciting kind of piece that the PACs took upon themselves to get to know each other. And then the Central PAC itself, the rest of the meeting, we or they not really me, but the rest of them decided to use some funds they have left to support some field trips that weren't gonna be able to happen because of the school budgets we talked about earlier today. So that was exciting. Principal Maureen was excited about that. Then they talked about kind of just year-end important dates, and then an update from the principal was, like you see in your package here, was a lot going on. The highlights for this last month were that it wasn't Chris Simon, Jason Simon. Still there, yeah. Highlight for that was that. Also, Vancouver Warriors lacrosse team came. That was exciting. Showed kids how to lacrosse, but then they also left some gear behind, which is now apparently being guarded ferociously by Mr. Shea, because he is afraid that they was destroyed. So if you want lacrosse gear, you need to give him your absolute word that you're not able to wreck it. They hosted Indigenous games essentially this year, which they were excited about. And then the other kind of fun thing that I thought was, because of all the intermediates doing track and field and running and different events, the primaries were like, we want to run too. So they started the primary run club, which I think their goal is to kind of get them to do a run for Central to Bow Park, which I don't know, it's not quite a kilometer. And apparently the first time they did it, they got like 100 meters in the run. Yeah, that's a lot. We're exhausted, so but regardless, they're having fun. That was Central, and then Diamondville, that was last night we met, and then Diamondville was a couple of weeks ago. Let's see, there was an AI presentation that they did. Art activity leading up to the end of the year. Diamondville track meet is on May 26th. Primary fun day is June 16th. They also had Vancouver Warriors come to their school. There's a couple of speakers that came to talk about inclusivity and Rugby Fest on June 2nd. I think is that Kamloops trip that they're attending? Rugby Fest, I think so. There's some kids going to Rugby Fest in Kamloops after their rugby season wrapped up, and they just go on this good trip with Kamloops. And then the pack itself, about some important dates, and how off their year, and just driving forward to next year. That time about.
And we'll move to trustee Whittington. Like Amber.
Sorry, I'm more of a Teams guy, so I had struggle when I'm trying to get around Zoom here. So yeah, we met at the Nicola Camper PAC meeting on May 6th. you know, lots of good stuff happening on Nicola Camper. We had some discussions about the process of the school closure and, you know, what that means for Colville and Central as they come together. We also had some conversations about how, you know, how there's going to still be challenges as their numbers decline over the next couple of years, right? And unless things change for our communities. Lots of great report by Bert, lots of good stuff. They had their hatching chicks out of Nicola Camper, so that was cool. They were really excited about the climbing wall at Nicola Camper. Now that's gotten off the ground, and Courtney's already spoken to that. They had some hoop dancing going on. Another interesting piece was they made their own buffalo jerky out of Nicola Camper, so that's pretty neat. Mrs. Joe, and we talked about Mrs. Joe earlier on tonight. She's the language teacher out of Nicola Camper, but her and Iggy actually took the language class out onto the land, and Iggy's actually Lisa's son, he's taken forestry at MVIT, so kind of giving back there, kind of a neat story. Lots to talk about the science fair and how excited all the students were about that. The pack itself is, you know, they've got some, they ended up pitching in to buy all the grads some hoodies, so the grade 7 grads have received all that. The pack has purchased some goalie nets, some like fairly heavy duty goalie nets for the students at Nicola Camper. I did get a chuckle out of Bert's, Bert made a list of all the do's and don'ts when it comes to blacktop hockey. So we had some fun with his list. There's a lot of no's on his list. Bit of chuckle about that. And one of the big highlights was that the pack bought a mascot, actually. So Nicola Camper's, their animal is the coyote. So they actually purchased a suit, a coyote suit, that we're going to start to see show up at activities that Nicola Camper's part of. So, yeah, lots of good stuff happening at Nicola Camper. Great spot. There was the other thing to share there maybe was that Shane Cooley was in attendance for that meeting as well, and he talked to the pack a lot about like co-sharing and how that can look between Nicola Camper and obviously the LNIB band school. There was some talk about sharing transportation. I know that some communication made its way back to Daryl, but I know there were some conversations about that. But yeah, lots of good work. Nice to see Shane there, and yeah, good stuff.
Trustee Ward.
Well, our VFP pack is half here, and so hi Crystal, hey and we met April 22nd, which happened to be one of the playoff games for the posse. So President Jen Woolman and Trustee Ward were in our posse gear, and we're like, we got a game started really soon. But we learned all about what's going on. One of the busiest schools. $2,300 they raised with the growing smiles and the plants. Emma had parents and kids lined up. You drove in. You got your. I was in a drive-through. I was in a plant drive-through. Yeah, so it was really, really cool. They got the Amazing Literacy Race coming May 28th, which is an annual situation where the school goes into community in partnership with Prince Leaders for Literacy, and they grow it, like they go in teams into different challenges, and all of it's to support learning and literacy and connect it to community. And so for one, there'll be like a grocery games challenge. They'll go to Save on Foods and they have to like shop and spend all their money on what they would get, and then they donate it to Feed the Valley at Valley First. They go to Valley First and they learn about financial literacy, these kinds of things. So there's different challenges all around community, and so Deara Maynard is leading that. She's going to join us tomorrow night if that's okay. I invited her because our PAC meeting is tomorrow night at the Copper Pit, where PAC has generously supported some delicious appetizers to entice new parents to join the PAC. That's kind of the idea, right? Come on, parents. Come on, right? Come on, we're gonna feed you. We're gonna get you here. We're gonna make you feel all happy. Spirit Week, I heard all about it. Said MJ was like, okay, we got this on this day, this on that day, and the Freaky Friday. Did you guys hear about Freaky Friday? You had to dress up, they swapped like as your teacher. So there's little pictures. I don't know if you've seen the superintendent's report, but pretty cute. I feel like I could go on and on. Oh, let's talk about something really important, and it has been Vermilion Force as long as I've been on Vermilion Force PAC. We have been advocating for playground, more playground, and more playground. We used to be on a list, like with the province, like, and then and we just didn't get on. We're not on, like, we're not there.
Still waiting.
And we're still waiting, and we're still waiting.
It's still top priority for our district, but we didn't get granted. We're hoping next year.
Right. So in the meantime, between now and then, I wonder, like, what are we doing to make our existing playground? I went there. There's a few pictures going on. It's really
It's a playground you played on?
honestly, and there's like chips of paint out, and I might cut my hand if I try really hard on it. I just really think it's important that even if we're on a list, we really need to like talk about it. I know parents are concerned. The PAC wants to do anything. There's new funding coming. BC CPAC released like $5 million, and there's a number of schools that receive playground money. We want one. BFE wasn't one. But we want to know how can, I know PAC said to Daryl, like, how can we help you advocate so that we can maybe become on said list for next year? So maybe that's something we can work on collaboratively. And I can bring that to PAC and move forward with that. So I think for littles, you've got sports days coming up. You got a very engaged PAC who's buying lunches and buying prizes for teachers and buying equipment and asking Pete all the things, like, how can we best support you? I just want to give shout out to Principal Van Jenny, who said that the coaches for literacy and numeracy were a really good value for his school. He's really focusing on 4 areas, which is to be known, to be loved, to be safe and successful. And to have a principal with those leadership pillars is like pretty awesome. So hands up to Pete and parents and littles and support staff and yeah, yay BFE. Hey BFE, good job.
You're up next, Rena.
Okay, but just on yours, you know, as we start doing these budgets again, I know when we did cut a position, it was me, person here, and maybe that's something we can look at if we start to get funds for the maintenance worker person back in Princeton full time. It's just a little word there to help you. JA, thank you, Courtney, for not taking up all money. Because there's a lot there. There's the garden is active. They had Fancy Day, which I guess is similar to the shout out to the Breakfast Club. Canada, great support for our community. Always there. Also to the Posse for buddy reading, which we do with the kids, which is great. Also a shout out to the PAC there. They raised great, they have great fundraising there, and they did gym equipment, carpet for a teacher, some stuff for the library, outdoor equipment. So they really help that school stay fresh. There's 43 grade 3s graduating or going to from grade 4. So that's amazing. It's just like and the $2,500 was greatly appreciated for that reading, library reading program that's happened. They had Indigenous dollars for a field trip to release sockeye that they did. Saw Lake, which is pretty cool for those little kids. So there's so much going on. Oh, I know we talked about it. Well, they wanted actually of those carpets, and they wanted to maybe have more cleaning of the carpets that are actually there that don't seem to be getting done. So I'm not sure if we should talk about something there. But also at the BC or BCSTA, the virtual AGM there was talk about the front entrances of schools, and we talked about it at the PAC. you know, there's very little security in a lot of our schools. And that's maybe something that we should get Daryl initiating, maybe some AFG dollars or something provincially that we can maybe look at this. I don't know if it's doorbells for a quick fix or security cameras, but something that we can maybe maintain or get from schools. Because I know JA, I think he's not the only bank can see the front door, right? So anyway, just some food for thought.
Of safety in school.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the good thing, it hasn't happened here, right? I don't want to put fear in things, but we should be proactive. That's it. You follow that.
Neat. All right, well, I have a very enthusiastic pack. Many of them are here today. Thank you for joining us. I showed up. So I would say that the theme of our last meeting was beautification. We talked a lot about different things that the school, that the kids are doing to make the school a nicer place. The kids are doing a beautification of the courtyard project for one of their classes. The PAC was able to give some money to them to help them with that. And one of the PAC parents, Danielle, actually really kindly offered to help them with this undertaking. She's quite an avid gardener, and so she's offered to come in, get the kids going with some starters, teach them about how to care for plants, how to grow plants, local plants, things like that. So it's really awesome for her to do that. Principal was also hoping to get some grant money or some money from the district to maybe beautify the entryway and the front entrance of the school. Just because it's a bit that central place that you drive around is a bit wild right now, and she'd love to be able to have, you know, better presentation for the front entrance of the school. As well as the basketball hoops are looking rough. So for the kids, they're pretty heavily used to get those fixed up and replaced or painted. And same thing with the soccer nets, they're running into similar issues where the bars are painful. And again, it's just to really encourage the kids to go outside, to use these resources. It would be really nice to have them looking a little bit more welcoming and friendly for them to use. Again, Breakfast Club application has been submitted, which is great. Right now, the Feeding Futures Fund is being used at the high school to offer free breakfast for all the kids. Young Life, big shout out to them as well. They provided a pancake breakfast on April 20th, and I think they're continuing on with that on possibly a weekly basis. I don't have an update on that, but that was what they were talking about at the time of our last meeting. So that's really amazing of them to do that. And the last thing I'll just talk about is PSS had an open house on April 29th. Instead of formal parent-teacher interviews, parents could come, they could walk around, they could talk to the teachers if they wanted to. And the PAC, again, provided snacks and drinks for the event just to encourage that parental engagement. They did that for the last semester's open house as well. It was really, really well received. And so they put the funds towards doing that again. It was just made it a really nice event for parents to come up to. So thank you guys for doing that. And our next meeting is May 25th at 5 p.m. So join us. Wonderful.
Do you have appies? Because we do.
We brought appies for everyone. Oh, actually, you should get cookies. I will say we should get cookies in there. Alan brings our cookies.
This brings us to MSS and the Ultimate Frisbee Dynasty they're creating. So
Woohoo!
I brought pictures.
Look at this.
So for 5 consecutive years, they've won both the Western Zone and the Okanagan Zone. So they're off to the provincial, and that's pretty exceptional in sports to win the Zones 5 years in a row. So kudos to them.
So cool.
So great to see that happening. You have also seen in your report, one of our teachers at MSS was provincially recognized by Junior Achievement as one of 7 champion teachers in British Columbia. That was great to see as well. The DPAC, I'll mention them while I'm at it. They took 3 motions from here to the provincial BCC track. One was on making rural busing a core service. Another was to increase PAC gaming dollars back up to $40, which it was 20 years ago, and for government cut it. And the other was for government to look at, instead of each school having to come up with, or district come up with its own dollars for cybersecurity, they're looking at a pool of dollars. And all three of those were accepted by the other PACs across the province, which, you know, some PACs would have like 70 voting cards and we had one. So the fact that getting that passed was nice to see. At bench, one of the ones we didn't cover was Mother's Day. They partnered with Valley Grace and had $25 gift certificates, and there is over 70 of those that were sold. A portion coming back to them. June 4th is the district track meet. Just to remind everyone. And June 10th through 12th, I believe, is the grade 7s going to Eagle Bay and year event. And back to Merit Secondary, it was mentioned the Rocks program we do there, SD58 Rocks. I also did thank yous to all of the industry, because when you take a look at that, it's not just the kids. Industry's donating both their equipment and their time for a couple of days. And I think we might have used one of the, I'm not sure it was Ministry of Transportation Highways Pit again this year. Yep. Yeah, so you look at all of them, that's probably 20-30,000 of in kind, take all the equipment plus the operators for a couple of days. So great to see that. So I sent that off to all of them as well.
There's Swan, just to speak to that, one of our PSS students, she presented to PSS. She was part of Heavy Duty Rocks. She's sharing her story provincially right now. But she'll be working on the Gibraltar expansion. She's just been hired to be a heavy duty equipment operator. She's part of the IOC. So that's a really good news story. She's just turned 19 and she's making $64 an hour. Ooh. Yeah, so it's pretty cool.
Anglo Tech didn't snag her?
No, this was a cool program where they trained her for free. She didn't even have to take the $20,000. Because of the Heavy Duty Rocks, she competed against 40 other people in Kamloops and area. She got in, she was like one of the only females, and she's for
Awesome. Just to piggyback on your thank yous, Gordon, a lot of that SD58 Rocks organization happens from the industry too, like the organizing of it. So I just want to shout out Trevor Brook. He's just a guy that works in the industry in town and has a passion for teaching and learning, and he puts in a lot of his time into organizing too. So yeah, not just a small sales, both communities.
I did not see anything under correspondence, so it moves us to public question. Oh, wait, we do have one?
AGM.
Oh, BCPC and the AGM.
AGM, we went down to AGM, April 8th through, I was there to 11 or 12 actually. And we moved through a number of Pro D sessions, which we got kicked off by Clara Hughes, like the most high energy, most interactive speaker. She said schools were her safe place. She said often she was going down a path where, you know, she didn't have a safe place at home. She was going down through a dark path, and it was often the caring kind teachers and the schoolhouses that kind of kept her moving forward. And she just spoke about, you know, how important the connection between schools and mental health is. And so she really got us started off in a really good way. Certainly Minister Bear also speaking about the longstanding relationship with and the importance of the co-governance sort of model and all the heavy lifting we have to do moving forward. With that, I'm going to say a few numbers, okay? 550,000. What number does that represent in British Columbia?
Students.
You bet. 60 districts came at the AGM to represent said 550,000 kids and students, of which we brought to the table 35 motions, of which 20 motions passed. and a variety of things around dual credit, around these emergency type services, rural busing, provincial assessments, transportation safety, student loan forgiveness, trying to take a look at bringing teachers to our communities and really try to up that ante so that we can retain and attract school district housing, before and after school care, student family affordability funds, public school funding, and like the list goes on. And so we come with our unique perspective, certainly, but as a group, our job is to advocate our board of directors to work with co-governors in the ministry so that voices in our local communities can be heard. So we had some professional development also around cybersecurity. So the live ransomware company was Fortnite, I think it was, or Fortinet, not Fortnite. That's Fortnite. That we don't want to call. Okay, Fortinet, I think it was called. So they partnered with BC SDA for our AGM. So that they could do some simulations, crisis simulations for us, in which case board chair spoke about the fund that we have, our district has put set aside should we fall victim to a cyber attack. And we believe we're about $700,000 in our particular fund. I think is something to be really aware of. We are advocating to provincial government that provincial government should be funding the cyber hacks, to which they have said nothing. Anyways, I could go on a little bit, but school safety, let's just land there. One of my colleagues was the trustee in Tumblr Ridge and one of my previous students and friends. So just, school safety continues to be at the top of the list. Entrances and caring teachers and parents, but let's talk about the mental health crisis. And let's talk about staying connected in community. So this BCSDA influence is very, very impactful for many people who care about our kids. But hands up to everyone who continues to show up on hard days, especially our educators. So that's a wrap. Follow that, BC.
Thanks a lot for that.
You're welcome.
And just all those motions were on the minister's desk yesterday.
Oh, okay.
They met yesterday.
Let's go. All right.
So now pop that.
Well done, Mina.
Yeah.
Just on the British Columbia Public Sector Employees Association, they sent a memo regarding the provincial framework agreement. It's the 2025 to the 2029. It's for the provincial parties have agreed to finalize the provincial classification support system, and that was formerly the job evaluation plan. That work started in 2014, and they're asking obviously the school districts to adopt the plan. This is funding available for support. So obviously something we should. I think I can't send out some of those emails to everyone because some people are in conflict, but I think you get them.
It's like QP side.
Yeah. That's good.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
Now I think we've hit everything.
Yeah.
And we're officially at open question period. Let's see how.
I mean, just ask questions now.
Anything that was on the agenda yet?
Awesome.
Oh, from that we covered today?
Yes, from the agenda.
Good. Okay, here's something. It's coming from a place of caring, of course. For the students. And kind of aligned with the mission of the strategic plan alignment. So what is the district doing to build a supportive school culture with two things, part A and part B. So how to attract great certified teachers to Princeton. So attraction, and then how to retain current certified teachers. There's a lot of postings out there right now, right? So we'd like to get to know.
I can speak to some of the postings as well that feedback the other night. The ones that are temporary, which are the harder ones to fill, we have to hold open the position for the teacher who's currently away. They actually own that position. So we know that's that's a struggle because when somebody looks at a posting and it's only for so many months or ends June 30th of next year, that's not as attractive. And we also talked about in some of the areas at DPAC, if I take band as an example in merit, the person is teaching 3 other subjects beyond band, where that teacher in the might just have 6 blocks of choral, which makes it easier to attract someone down there. I know we're keeping band going here again, but I know that's a struggle, and part of that is when you've got other assignments put in there. We do our advertising, same as the rest of the province, to make a future, and that'll turn over to the superintendent.
So the BCPC also gives grants for typically rural districts. So we've actually applied for one for our shop teacher. We still haven't heard. The announcement's supposed to come, I think it's May 24th. If you're able to get that recruitment grant, there's extra funds that you can use for that specific position. The other piece that we do is we've gotten our ads out quickly because there are a number of positions to fill. Teachers are looking for continuous positions. So one of the challenges we have is when we have people off on leave and temporary, you're only guaranteed a contract for part of the year or a full year, but there's no guarantee that there's a continuous job for you after that. So there's a variety of reasons why teachers go off on leaves, but we're obligated to hold those positions for them, which makes it a little bit tougher to staff those positions.
Just to that, also you do you train some teachers in-house?
We do. So a number of our teachers, and Crystal Larson's actually one of the faculty facilitators for this. We've had a number of teachers that started on letters of permission. They've done it through the University of Calgary, and they're actually able to do their practicums here in Princeton. There are people that live here already and are willing to stay long-term and have made connections. We have another 2 that are graduating this year, and they'll be certified teachers. I think they finished now, so they should be certified teachers as of September. So that gives us another 2 people that are certified that potentially fill our positions.
One already is.
Yay, exciting.
The positions at VFE, like they are listed as temporary, but why are they listed as temporary? Because they're not holding a seat for like the shuffle, like I didn't understand the VFE positions.
They're held for teachers, so any position that's temporary has to be held for another teacher in our district. So for it to be a temporary position, it actually, the position is owned to somebody else. So we have to have jobs for them to come back to.
Did you say in the district? So it could be anyone in the district or?
No, because our teachers don't transfer across communities.
Okay.
We do it by community. Sometimes what happens is someone goes off on leave for, let's say, a medical reason, and they may be gone several years. But we have to hold a job for them indefinitely. We had one come back last year in merit who'd been off for 4 years. And if we hadn't had a job for them to go to, it causes a ripple effect. We have a large number of teachers on leave for a variety of reasons in Princeton right now. But that makes it more difficult. But anything that's posted as temporary has another teacher's name attached to it.
So just to clarify, if say a teacher at SS were to go on leave, you may hold a position at BFE.
No, we hold the position at the school,
So
it's
it's
their
their
original
original position. Okay, so it's a substantive position is held.
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
I just don't understand, if I could just get some clarity around the 2 positions that are at VFE, in particular, the grade 4 and the grade 4-5, they were held by like continuing contracted teachers. So I don't understand if you could just maybe provide some clarity as to why those are now temporary. I think that's what I don't understand, is we had continuing contract teachers in those two roles as those two teachers, and now all of a sudden, those are temporary.
So we also have reassignments and we have two versions of them. So one is a district initiated assignment. That, I guess we actually have three. There's one that's district initiated, we have one that's teacher initiated, and then we have what are called in-school reassignments. And there's a process for that to best meet the needs of the school. It's the principal that works in conjunction to figure out where is the best placement for teachers.
Can I ask a question about that? Because when we're talking about retention and about keeping our very qualified, very experienced teachers here, the ones that we do have. When teachers are reassigned without consultation ahead of time, without
We
any.
can't get into personnel issues. We can't, not at a board
What's the
meeting,
question? Is I think.
yeah, but we can't talk about specific people, I'm saying.
Well, I guess I'm just saying, how are we going to retain teachers at the same time that we're making teachers? I guess, I don't know how to say that.
Yeah, I think you did bring up the mental health. It's very important to create that environment, have a good, safe environment for the students. Teachers really need that and give that environment as well. So when you reassign all of the teachers in a school, I don't think the mental health was a goal in that situation. Or why? I can't see.
I would say if you're an elementary teacher, you're allowed to teach anything from K to 7.
And you're capable as a qualified teacher,
Yes.
a certified teacher to do that.
So we have protected jobs, and we didn't have to lay anyone off, but we did have to do reassignments. And we do have to hold positions for temporary for people who are off on leave. So none of it's easy to do. I would say not everyone is going to get exactly what they want. But we have made sure at the end of the day, everyone who's wanted a position has a position. So we didn't have to lay anyone off that people.
We didn't. We were looking at 5 layoffs across the district between Marion and Princeton. We did 9 reassignments on both sides of the district. To make sure that there were jobs so that we didn't have to lay off.
So layoffs happen sort of because there isn't enough students.
The number of students is declining, so in Princeton as well, we're looking at a decline at PSS for next year. We're hoping JA will be up, our kindergarten projections are not quite holding right now, but we're hoping more will come in the next month and a half. Where we're seeing the projected decline is actually at PSS for next year. BFE and GAA, if the projections hold, they should be relatively stable. They have the same number of positions like this year as they will next year.
Yeah.
So is it fair to say then that the reassignments in some cases happened to avoid layoffs to sort of correctly? And then second part of that question is, is it possible to do, because I think what, Keely is saying is there a possibility for more consultation in advance of those decisions being made? Because I think if that's what I'm hearing, then that's maybe part of the upset. Is that something that's can be looked at moving forward?
So there's specific requirements under the collective agreement about how we do district initiated transfers, how we do teacher initiated transfers, and how we do in-school initiated transfers. It's about operational requirements. And a big part of the issue is we've had a number of 6-7 positions over the last few years, and we have not been able to get a certified teacher. Or teachers. So we actually had to put 2 uncertified teachers together to make one of the 6-7 classes work this year.
So we have not violated the collective agreement.
No, and I'm not saying that that's necessarily the case. I'm just saying that as a courtesy, is it possible to have those conversations? If that would help. Again, this is sort of outside of my wheelhouse.
Well, it is outside of governance.
Yeah.
This is an operational issue, which I was just going to defer because in our community, we only have a couple of grade 3 teachers or grade 7 teachers, and without breaching any confidentiality, I would fear that the board is in some serious danger here by furthering this discussion right now.
We have a few people. Pretty easy in the weeds to know who you're talking about, so that's why I said we can't discuss. percent.
Yeah, if there's anything else I think that's pertaining to the agenda, then since there's other questions.
I do have another question. As a parent, and Em, you wanna go? Oh, yeah, I just wanted to, sorry, just to confirm, just when you said there's gonna be zero change in staffing at John Hamilton.
The number of positions
The number of
is the same.
positions. Yeah, and same with EFE and ESS.
So right now, PSS will have less because they're projected to have a decline. So we moved one of the positions. JA and VFD have the same staffing that they have right now. So, and then we'll look to see what happens in September. Sometimes the numbers don't hold. Sometimes we get an influx of students. So we had an influx at JA last year. So with the number of births in Princeton, we think that we'll have enough for 2 kindergarten classes. So we're rolling the dice a little bit, but we felt like it was a safe risk to put that teacher in place now. Last year, we were right at the borderline of class sizes, so we had to wait. We also wanted to apply for that funding through the classroom enhancement fund. So that is basically where you have to create another class due to numbers exceeding where your class size limits would be. So this year we've got ahead. I'm hoping the rest of the kindergarten registrations are going to come. They're normally pretty solid in Princeton and they normally come before the end of the school year. We tend to pick up maybe 1 or 2 kids in kindergarten in September. But we think it's going to be a year where we'll be able to have 2 kindergarten classes. We prefer kindergarten rather than K1. Do K1s when we have to if we don't have enough to be able to run them separately. The numbers last year, I think there were only 30 births in Princeton, like for this year. That's why we were probably looking at a K and a K1. This coming year, the birth rate was 41. We normally take like 1 or 2 off of that, so we suspect we'll get close to 20 is the max for kindergarten. If we exceed that, then we may have to look at a K1. I don't think we're going to exceed it though. We're still a little bit short from our projections, but the numbers are relatively at JA.
Where that can change in bodies is if somebody puts in late for retirement or early retirement, that can change things for us. Or we've had in the past across the district where a teacher has applied for an administrator's position in another district. And we find out about that in July, so all of a sudden we have a gap to fill, and it's much harder. We always encourage that to happen early because if somebody moves to an administrator position in another district, then we know we're in July, we're behind the 8 ball in terms of getting someone. So those are things that could happen on that individual life choices. Someone could find a partner in another community and decide that they're moving there. We've had that happen here. So there can be other factors there too that will drop in when we think our numbers are stable, and all of a sudden.
That's the biggest challenge when we get unexpected resignations or retirements. It shrinks the window to be able to staff those positions.
I love that the district has got their applications or their postings out early this year. As a parent of somebody who's going into grade 12, got my parent hat on, my teacher hat on right now, and who is university bound, I have a lot of concerns about the postings that are there because they are senior sciences and they are serious. Like we took a real hit. Well, I want to say when Pete went to administration and when Mrs. Atkinson moved. And I want to know what our backup plan is if we can't fill those positions for these kids who are university bound and need these courses. Is that skies? Like what's
So I can speak to those ones. So we've got our ads out for we want to attract the best candidates, and we did that deliberately. Like
yes,
I don't love causing disruption early, but I also want people to know whether they have a job or not, because I was that teacher that came out and there was no job for me. You know, you get a temp, you get another temp, you get another temp. So you're looking for a job every February and March, just like often. This year, we probably stand a better chance of getting more candidates because 51 districts are looking at different moments. Not all districts have completed their layoffs yet, so I think there will be more people looking for work than what we've seen in the past. The other piece too is we do have a continuous math science position that we posted. Yeah, right. Yeah, so what is continuous for that? That was the decision I'm actually able to put out as continuous. We also, I know not so much for academic concern, but we also have a continuous out for our shop teacher. We have a line on one teacher. I'm not gonna get my hopes up because I've had them bashed 3 times already. Those are continuous positions. Now, we might still get movement over the summer. So if someone leaves who's in a continuous position, that gives us an opportunity to maybe post a continuous position. But part of why we started early is so that people can see them. You know, Princeton attracts like a certain kind of person. Like you have to be willing to live in a small town. You know, well, you know what? I moved 6 hours north of Edmonton my first year. I town at 1200. There's good things that come with that, but it's also culture shock. So not everyone is good with that. I also met with Nadine and Dave, so principal here at PSS and as well as MSS. We're actually looking at the potential of hybrid classes. So ones where we haven't been able to run them because the enrollment is so low at PSS, like Calc 12 is probably a good example. So rather than having to take it through skies, we're looking at the option of running it hybrid. So, and we're actually looking at courses both ways, so potentially taught out of Princeton, so it's not just one way, it's coming both ways.
See, that feels fair.
Because I think it's not fair if it only ever comes from merit, because when I was in one of the districts, we weren't in the town where the central office was, and it felt like we didn't get some of the pieces sometimes. You know, whether that's true or not, but that's how people feel, but I think we have some good quality really add value to our kids at MSS. So we're looking at those pieces. If we don't get you know, the quality of candidates that we need, we'll continue to advertise. Like we put a bigger window out there right now because we know we cast a bigger net. Some of the issues we run into is when we get resignations late or you know, do our layoffs or reassignments late, we don't know what we're posting. So then it's harder to get the person to come. Like last year, we couldn't get a shop teacher, so we ended up posting for another bird. But it was temporary year because we're still trying to get that shop teacher. Like we have skies, but I honestly like the hybrid option.
I'm glad to hear that. I have to say, as a parent, it's super concerning when you have a kid who has academics, but it's also the electives because we are in a small school. And my son has taken, your daughter has taken the grade 11 courses when they were grade 10 and the grade 12 courses because there's not a lot of electives. And so John is going to be going into grade 12 with 4 courses that he hopes he gets Calc 12, whether he does that through Skies or whatever, and he needs this, and this. And his other classes, like we hope we get a shop teacher because there's just not a lot to pick from.
You know what, we all have our fingers and toes crossed that we get the shop teacher. We know the demand, like we'll get more kids than we just put in there. So we're all gonna keep our fingers crossed about that. We've been trying to recruit for over a year.
I know.
The other thing we're also looking at too is not just academic classes, but what are options potentially that we can offer between the 2 schools. So sometimes we don't get the population we need to run them at a PSS. But if we have the teacher, we have room in our timetable here, we can offer it to some of our kids at MSS, which would give us enough numbers that we would be able to run it. Not all classes will work that way, because we sat and looked at the list and we were like, this
hard to do that.
This one is like way too hands-on to be able to do it, but like we're looking outside the box. I don't love Skies as being our only other option. Not that Skies is bad because it serves me. You You know, the best option if we can is to have that teacher right in front of them. I've successfully run hybrid programs in other districts that have worked. And we had really good success for it. So classes where, you know, typically like get 2 to 3 kids. So if you never run it in a school, we've actually been able to open it. And then instead of having to cycle our sciences, which we often have to do, it gives the opportunity for the kids to be able to take it right year. We're also looking at potentially being able to offer Indigenous language virtually to our kids that existed. We have an ad out for a French as a second language teacher. They're almost like a uniform. So Katrina left us to go do the union. We haven't been able to stop it in the past years. We're hoping that someone will come along. One of the challenges we have here is you're going to teach a lot of courses because we're a small school. We don't have multiple sections of anything. We actually don't even have a lot of multiple sections at MSS, because it is, you know, outside of like English and social studies. So that's a challenge. Not everyone wants.
It's a challenge for our kids.
Yeah.
It's a challenge for our kids. We've had some rough times.
It's also a challenge for our communities.
Yeah.
Because from the organization I work with, we have over the years had challenge attracting other professionals. And I'll be honest, I have a very real fear that our current team, our current people that we have, not just in my organization, but I think in other organizations like Get the Line, we're gonna have trouble attracting and retaining them because they'll move for their kids. Because we're all of us, we want the best for Lauren and Avery and Owen, all of our kids, right?
And we have people who are leaving.
They don't have the opportunity. That's my investment. It will be into Tona and our kids. And I respect that of my teammates. But it's gonna be really hard for this community. And it perpetuates, because you take kids out, your enrollment goes, your funding goes. I'm encouraged to hear that you're looking at other options in Thailand.
And it's
It is good. That's a positive move forward. No, it's never gonna be good as having a person in front of us, right? We work virtually amongst our teams. It's got pros and cons. Definitely the face-to-face connection is much stronger, but we need to keep our minds open, and this is where I don't know what we can do to encourage government or advocacy, but we need to do something. I respect the but I do think box in order to attract everything. I don't know what that is. But that's something I think.
Parents are worried. Professionals are worried. They'll leave the community.
That's something we push with government for rural districts. If you have, I can look at the mining sector, the amount of money that brings in. Compared to the services you have, and I have friends who they fly in and out of Red Chris, which 20 years ago you would have just had people at D-Lake. So they actually fly in and out entire shifts.
There's no community.
Which is, so there's now. The Admin district probably has less than 200 students in the entire district, which is a massive district, but that's the pressure they're feeling is, you know, people from Prince George. You literally fly in an entire crew, fly out an entire crew, which isn't healthy for communities.
But kind of to Corey's point, and sort of what I've seen the board do is it's a housing issue as well. You know, so we can get people here, but they also have to afford a house and a new teacher salary and a house and all of that, right? And so that's that really strong working group between the municipalities and our industry partners, and almost like a working group for attraction. And I'll give you an example. In certain areas where industry sponsored a signing bonus to bring teachers to community. So
we have some money now.
It would be a really good opportunity, right? So it was around, it was an attraction piece, and of course more government. I don't know if you guys saw the last budget. I don't know that there's gonna be all kinds of money coming.
But no, that's out of the box thinking, if that's Steven's on.
Right, so it was a sort of a working group and they wanted to invest in community in a meaningful way, and it was to get educators into their school system. And healthcare workers, so they had signing bonuses for both, because they were missing doctors too. So those are those rural communities trying to work with industry partners, municipalities and school districts.
And one of the things we tried to get for housing here, we have 10 lots which have a covenant on them from ministry, from government, that were actually donated. The intent was to donate them to the district. The way the titles were written up, 2 of them, they revert to us. The other ones, if they're not used for educational purposes, the land goes to the government. We were trying to work with the town here to say, well, if we could get that taken off, that would open up 12 lots, which could then have housing built on. The last one we heard from government was it reverts to us. And
Which government, municipal or?
because of the way that it was registered with land title, we've gone to the ministry to say, you know, if you could change that, that will help the town. You know, that land up for development. We put the covenant we've done on the one property attached to your building, so that they could build more housing, because that would allow for parking. So there's things we've done that as a district
To attract
which doesn't
development.
necessarily help us as a district, but helps the community. We say, well, how can we do those? And I know on those 10 lots, that's been one of our stumbling blocks where government goes, no, it goes back to us. And if you could change that on those 10 lots, because we believe those registered incorrectly, because the other 2 are correct. That would allow housing.
Just in regards to those lots, I recall like a few years ago that were we not looking at the possibility of having, like, considering if housing was built on those as teacherages, that would be considered as for education purposes, and it kind of skirted around that, or am I feel like we talked about that and it is getting looked into. Or anything, just as, again, another option, that if there's development on there specifically for teachers to attract them.
If industry paid for it, can we have more money?
Always more money.
It's a
As-
catch.
as a-
Again,
again,
you're not going to become a landlord of properties that are costing you money while you have declining enrollment. You still want market value on those. Or if industry was to, I don't know, if someone drove a truck at High Bay and mentioned to some boss there and he said, boy, we'd sure be interested in building that for you. But government has very clearly said, if it's not used for educational purposes, they sent us that back. Legal letters that it reverts to the crown. So. Yeah, period.
I just have a question about Mark's presentation.
Yeah.
No, so thanks for sharing all the numbers, and being a local union president with Merritt's, the NDT's president as well. We kind of had the privilege of having our own budget presentation as local presidents. And then we got to meet with the finance committee. So it was a lot of numbers, but we also got to bring up these themes we're hearing, like retention, programs and services, kind of specific questions on what might be invested in next year or what we're looking at for next year. And I'm just wondering, between now and the second or third readings, if folks come with questions about these themes, is there a way that they can continue to have this conversation? Will there be kind of more, is it waiting until that June meeting to see how the numbers correlate with programs and services and plans for next year, or kind of just what the process is between them?
So we've done the budget consultation sessions. We also had an email set up for people to send in questions. Have we seen any on that? I don't think we've seen
budget consultation questions from the public.
I don't get those.
Yeah. So I haven't seen any there. But that's so you know, we've done the public consultation sessions. We met with the union, we met with our rights holders. By the end of the day, we're funded by the number of bottoms we have on seats on September 30th. That is one of the drivers to that. We're expecting 51 less kids, and that becomes 71. That's an extra 20 kids at about $11,000 because it's 9 plus the other factors. So all of a sudden, that's another chunk of dollars we don't have. So we're hoping those numbers hold, but we physically, the reason we do a count on September 30th, is government has us do a bums in seat count, something called a 1701. Then in December, they tell us we agree or disagree with your number. So that's part of that. So we're building a budget based on the 2 consultation periods we have. And we advertise those for people to come up to them. We are looking at the teams, we're looking at the strategic plan, but at the end of the day, it's literally how many kids show up at our door, because that generates the funding. I know we've had a conversation, Mayor, where some people have said, well, just ask the government for more money. Government very clearly says the number of bottoms you have on seats on September 30th is your number, which we don't necessarily agree is equitable for rural areas. That's the number they use. So.
Yeah, one more question on postings to follow up. So with Princeton postings out there, how can we get them more visible in the other districts where they're going to have to decrease teachers? And has a headhunter been considered? You know, instead of just like putting it out, posting, can we be more aggressive?
So I can speak to the posting. So in BC, we're actually mandated to use a website called Make a Picture. So that's where teachers know to go look for teaching positions. So if you're looking for a teaching job, that's where you're gonna go. So what we typically do is all the positions post and push it down because there's like a current job posting. So often we'll push it back up to the top. We've also done Facebook ads in the past that have targeted communities to try to get more interest. So we should have an idea, I think closer to the end of the month when other people are working on their budgets in other districts as well. We all have different collective agreements that have different dates that layoffs have to be done. So those are some of the pieces right now. It's important to get your ads out early. And then as we move forward in our timetabling process, we're able to actually put specific classes in there. So when teachers are searching for specific things that they want to teach, that's one of the pieces that they can do on the Make a Picture site. Heading is quite expensive. And to be honest, I'm not sure that they would have any more luck than we do right now. So we would try the other pieces first. If we still couldn't, you know, we could look at that, but the cost typically for a headhunter is the cost of about an EA and a half. So I'm not sure we would get the value for dollar out of that one. Sometimes we have better luck with word of mouth or people like connections. So you need as a group of 60 superintendents because there's 60 districts. So sometimes, you know, if we know layoffs are coming in one district, you know, like, do you have anyone who might be like interested? We'll reach out, especially for positions like counseling or like a student support teacher, because often it's a specialized skill set. We tend to have more luck when we do that than just give a general recruitment. But I think why they mandate the use of Make It Future, it's because there's been recruitment and retention issues for a number of years. It's not unique to BC, we're seeing it pretty much as a national trend. But they know to go to that site so that teaching jobs aren't being missed. Because there are a few like educational job sites you can post to. But when it's centralized, you know, that's where you should go look to see as districts work. So Nadine and I talk frequently, honestly, every 2 days, if not every day, and we're monitoring it closely. So she and I were looking at resumes that have come in. We talked about, you know, maybe we need to tweak this listing because we're getting closer with our timetable. So we're working on those pieces. We're really hoping that we'll have all certified teachers. We've seen a decrease in the number of our letters of permission. When I first came, I think we had 13 or 14. This year, I think we ended up with 9. And
with what we're seeing across the province, we think there's gonna be more people that will be available. What will happen with temp jobs though is they'll wait to see what continuous jobs are gonna post first. And then they'll apply for the temps. So sometimes it takes them a little bit longer to apply. But we'll keep that in mind. And I understand the concern. You know, it's not easy trying to staff those positions, and we want quality people, and we want people who are gonna stay. You know, because what we often see both here and in Merit is people will come for a year or two, and they don't put down roots like we hope that they're going to. So I think like what Leah mentioned about that homegrown talent, we've actually had quite a lot of good luck with ones that have taught on letters of permission for us going back and doing their teacher education. Crystal's a really strong advocate for that program. And when I look around, we have a number of certified teachers that started out on letters of permission. Obviously, I can't go into individual names, but you know, what I would say is they'd probably be amongst the top teachers that people would speak about in Princeton. So we're also looking at that aspect in Merit, especially around our Indigenous language teachers. We have a lot of turnover. Part of like our earlier meeting was having piece of work with them to kind of support that piece. And another piece that we're looking at is new teachers come in, the coaching positions that we've invested in. It's really hard when you start out in the classroom. And even if you've taught a few years before, depending on when you came out, you may not have, you know, the bag of tricks that you need. So having somebody who can give you that elbow to elbow support, I think will be helpful. Yeah.
Any other questions?
I just have a comment for Deepak. Thank you for the funding to provide, we have one representative go down, and thank you very much for the board for giving that funding, and yeah, we look forward to having 2 reps for next year.
We'll just get all those proxies done.
Yeah.
Well,
We worked really hard on the one we did get, so.
Trustee Jepson,
There's a question online.
online. I thought you were moving to adjourn.
Has there been consultation with bands in regards to the name change of Central?
It's not required.
No.
That's because it's not required though, it doesn't mean that it's set in stone for the rest of eternity.
Like the board can change the name of a school, like it's their purview. When we were out at the school consultation meetings, there was a lot of history built around the Merit Central name. So typically when it becomes dual credit or dual track, we add the old to it. And what's kind of unique about our schools, they're named after the geographical or neighborhood locations. Where a lot of school districts name them after people, which honestly sometimes over time becomes an issue. But it wasn't one of the things that we specifically consulted about.
For me, my piece would be if they come into the school somewhere, then I think we would want to say, hey, do you want to call this thing? But in this case, it's like you said, there's history tied to it and it's been there a long time, so that is important.
And that when you typically build a new school, that is part of your like school planning process of, you know, consulting with your community about what the new name should be. I'm just assuming they named them after the neighborhoods where the schools were built, because that's the neighborhoods where the schools were located.
And then the goal was simply to recognize that it's now a dual track school. Yeah. Which honor to call it that.
That's it.
Just
Motion
One more.
adjourned.
Wait, one more.
Yeah.
Sorry, just one more question to follow up, trustee Rayner brought up. And just something that I wanted to touch on as a mom who's in both PSS and VFE fairly regularly. The one thing I noticed this school year, and I know it was regarding the budget decrease and you know, things were done last year. But we lost one of our good carpenters and maintenance people here in Princeton, and I've just seen a decrease in, I know that we're now able to access people to come down from Merit, but you know, considering that winter is half the school year, sometimes those people from Merit don't make it down our Highway 5A.
And I have no problem with that, because I don't like going up it either, but, yeah, I kind of sort of mentioning what trustee Rayner was talking about, if there's any movement for us to be able to get back a maintenance person here in Prince, we have 3 schools and we have the bridge. And they have a lot of needs. My kids are at these schools and I see the things that go unmaintained. And I know everybody is doing the work that as hard as they can, but we've seen a huge impact. I've seen it physically in our schools. And it's hard. It's hard to hear, you know. It was really sad to lose that position. Personally, he was an incredible person at the school for our kids. But beyond that, the work that he maintained there made an impact every day. And that's been a big change for, all I can speak is what I see anyways as a parent. But if there's any availability to get even a part-time person here and there or full-time, like, to me, the need is here. That's what I see. But
We do look at work orders, but I understand part of what you're saying, because I went to use a bathroom down the hall today and found the door had been ripped off the stall. So I went, oh, so I talked to someone about need a work order.
Yeah.
So I felt that.
Yeah, I can imagine you're seeing a lot of these work orders and stuff. It's not even.
But we do look at work orders across the district to see where they come, but yeah, I had that first hand and I go, oh, this is not a ship.
Yeah, when Dave mentioned that and brought it up, I was lingering for it.
I'll move to adjourn by trustee Jefferson, seconded by trustee Camp Laidlaw. Anyone opposed? Carried.